Love it himself.
Let's go on the minute.
Sure.
Those are good. When we clapped yesterday, it was like, I think there were 5 people in that call. It was like a cascade of claps that were all like a couple seconds apart.
A clapscade?
Yes. And it wasn't because people fucked it up. It was because that was just where the delay was on the call.
Because every time we clap, I get this feeling. And every time we clap, I swear
Oh
I
god,
could
that's
fly.
giving me like flashbacks.
Can't you feel my heart clap fast? I want this to last.
Alyssa was talking about when she was driving around her first car and would blast Darude Sandstorm from it, which I thought was very funny.
Forget. My friends and I went to a Dimmu Borgir concert. Like,
That's
and it
good.
had a bunch of like black metal stuff, other like opening bands. And like we were going to the concert, but we went in and we were just blasting like Aqua or something. And just
I love, what is it?
Yeah. We got so many
I
odd,
love little girls.
got so many odd and unhappy looks from.
Is that Aqua? I love little girls. Is that Aqua?
I don't
Is
know.
that got who?
I'm looking it up right now.
Is that Danny
It is
Elfman?
Oingo Boingo.
Boingo Boingo. That's what Danny Elfman. There we go.
I forgot
never-
about Oingo Boingo.
I never knew about the Dota song.
Oh, I
Like
did.
Base Hunter.
Yeah, that's like a thing I missed.
Boat Nana.
Yeah, that was another thing. This was like like made a reference to the Dota song, and I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And she's like, "You don't know about this?" And I was like, "No, I didn't."
What kind of fake Dota girl are you?
Well, I'm the only person on this podcast who played the Dota card game.
Mm-hmm.
Rip.
There's no song about that.
There never will be.
Hello, and welcome to episode 162 of the Gaming Fyx podcast on March 6th, 2021. I'm your host, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite Muppet. I'm joined today by Pat.
I don't have it. That one's caught me too off guard. I don't have a good answer for that. I don't think that my partner. We never really watched the Muppets together, so I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess like Oscar, because
I'll accept it.
Oscar's probably my favorite, though. I don't know.
Sesame Street, like they're Muppets, but they're not.
Oh, yeah,
like,
they're Muppets.
they're
Come
not
on.
the Muppets.
I mean, half of them are.
I mean, they're Muppet. They're just not the Muppets.
A bunch of them are on the Muppet Show, though.
Are they? I don't know about that. Allison
Kermit the Frog.
is not on Sesame Street.
Kermit's on Sesame Street sometimes. I'm pretty sure that Kermit has spots on Sesame Street sometimes.
I guess I like Fozzie at best, question mark.
Waka Waka.
Yeah.
And Alex.
I'm pretty fond of Sweetums.
Sweetums.
He's like the big motherfucker that was like a full-sized human in a costume with all those little tiny ones.
Okay, there's something to be said about that, where it's like a giant puppet.
You really freaked me out when you said Kermit's not on Sesame Street, because I was like, what? And I thought
He's
Kermit
not regularly.
Yes, he's on Sesame Street all the time. I just looked it up. Yes. He's a regular fixture on Sesame Street.
I don't watch Sesame Street.
Yeah,
so.
granted, I haven't watched Sesame Street in at least, let's say, 20 years.
Yeah, I was like, wait, was my childhood a lie? Am I misremembering everything about a show I watched every day?
Yes.
Oh, I guess he was
I did
on
not watch.
Sesame Street.
Yeah, he was on Sesame Street all the time.
Most of my Sesame Street exposure was like a VHS, and then they had a count. He was like doing an elevator thing, and he kept everyone's like, I want to go to the first floor, like the fourth floor, and he would always count them to 11.
Kermit was one of the original main Muppet characters on Sesame Street. Closely
one of the
identified with
originals,
the show.
yes, but
Kermit usually appeared as a lecturer on simple topics, a straight man to another Muppet foil, usually Grover, Harry Monster, or Cookie Monster.
Harry Monster? What's that?
Harry Monster.
Do you remember
Fuzzy, big blue, and burly with a gentle side.
Oh, is that Alex?
New Zealand?
New Zealand. He's the one who like threw fish.
That's funny. Yeah.
What? Oh, this guy. Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. So yeah, I was just watching the Muppet. I watched like
I don't remember him, but I love him.
2011 and 2014 Muppet movies this week, and like there are a lot of Muppets. So I'm just I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
They made a lot of.
They never named them, but they're just there.
There was this is not useful information for anyone at this point. But there was a outstanding Jim Henson exhibit at the Mopop here in Seattle in the year before COVID, because that was the last time that I went to the Mopop. That they had like a bunch of his like old original puppets, the actual original
that would be
puppets.
so cool to see.
It was so cool.
Because that like hearing like the story, like the history of how like he went from doing this for like local TV to doing like the Muppets. It's
yes.
kind of it's so interesting. So it'd be so cool to see some of those original. They
had like all of the original, like they would have like the original footage on TVs so you could see what it looked like, and then they had the puppet in a case right next to the TV so you could like see it as you were watching the TV. It was so cool.
Oh, that's rad.
Awesome.
Wait.
Okay, if they made a Muppet game,
I was just gonna say,
what Muppet game would you want to play? Like Muppet Kart or like Muppet Party?
Jeez. Well, is it purely Muppets, or can you like get some Fraggle Rock in there and some Labyrinth and stuff like
this
that?
This is the Jim Henson. The Jim. I think. Okay. Well, you could do the Muppet game, or you could do like the Jim Henson game. Jim Henson's Tom Clancy's The Division.
To be honest, there's like a bunch of different things I could see doing, but I think what I would really love is like a management style game where you're running the Muppet Show. And
that sounds like, so good.
And you've got it's like a backlot like,
keep them all
set.
In line and
yeah, it's got some like life sim stuff in terms of keeping their moods up. Mm-hmm. And since they're all weird, they want different things. So you have to like provide different things for them. And then you're also like trying to book guests, and the guests come in and they're wildly different than everybody else and need different things.
Do you play
from
the
perspective? I need this game to exist. Holy shit. I want it so bad. Do you play from the
perspective of Statler and Waldorf?
No, you play from the perspective of Peter Jackson.
Why?
You don't know about Peter Jackson's early films?
Bad Taste, Dead Alive,
Meet the Feebles.
I don't think I've seen Meet the Feebles.
Really? Oh, it's horrible. You probably shouldn't watch it.
Have you seen Bad Taste? Well, bad. Have you seen Bad Taste?
Meet the Feebles is like a horrifically violent, like filled with like gross sex stuff.
Bad Taste.
Brain Dead. So.
And it's about the Muppet Show. It's like a riff on the Muppet Show.
It's Bad Taste is a hell of a movie.
Meet the Feebles is too.
It's got some wild special effects, and it has Peter Jackson fighting himself, like on a cliff face, and his brain comes out. That's
the kind of stuff in Meet the Feebles. Like imagine if Miss Piggy had to pick up like a light machine gun and mow down a bunch of mobsters. Is the kind of stuff that happens in Meet the Feebles.
Peter Jackson's, cool. Jim Henson's, Tom Clancy's The Division.
When I say gross sex stuff too, I mean because it's weird, because it's Muppets, not like
Team America.
Yeah, not like it's not. I mean, the movie is offensive and you probably shouldn't watch it, but it's also not like, how did Peter Jackson get away with this or anything?
It's not transgressive.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I would say if someone were to tell me they wanted to watch it, I would go, just so you know, there's a lot of weird shit in that movie. I wouldn't go, oh, no. Here's, you shouldn't watch it because X, Y, and Z. Anyway.
All right.
Yeah. Muppet Show management game, not from the perspective of, you'd play from the perspective of a new manager that's coming in, stage manager.
And you're just
I want to play this game
bombarded by the shenanigans of
Muppets. And like you didn't know how wild it got backstage.
And Ted Lasso is there.
Yeah. Sure.
Ted Lasso managing the Muppets.
Oh my god. This is like the video.
I mean, they should do that in some kind of capacity, for sure.
He's too wholesome. I need some like chaotic, like I need some like someone who can be antagonized by their shenanigans, like Jack Black in the 2011 movie, who is just like, what are you doing to me? Why are you cutting my hair? You shrunk my head.
You know, there's a very obvious answer here. It's Brendan Fraser.
Yes, sure.
They should make a Muppet movie starring Jason Sudeikis, though.
That would be
he would be a really good in a Muppet movie.
He'd be a very good foil to the Muppets.
And frankly, I think he could play Ted Lasso and it would be pretty good. Just saying. They could definitely make that crossover. I mean, it would be weird because Ted Lasso ostensibly takes place in the real world, but figure out a way to make that work. And that works.
Apple. Disney, make it happen. There's no reason
not Disney.
You can't.
Not Disney.
Disney owns the Muppets.
Oh, you're right.
But I don't know.
They'll never be interesting again.
Sesame Street. Yeah, I mean, they made Kermit into a divorced dad for the new show. He's got like big divorced dad energy.
And at the end, Sudeikis looks to his left and says, "I'm Jason the Frog."
Well, now that we've segued into games somehow through the Muppets,
do you want? I mean, I have a segue off of Ted Lasso into the game that I brought.
Of course, I want. Did you bring Captain Tsubasa?
No, I brought FIFA 21.
Oh my god!
Of course,
because it was on sale for $20, and hilariously, it was not that I watched Ted Lasso and then wanted to play it. It's that I played FIFA and then was like, I should watch Ted Lasso.
Oh, it was the opposite. I see.
Which is a funny order for those things to happen in, because Ted Lasso is probably some of the best media I've seen at all in the I mean, FIFA's not as good as Ted Lasso. But
Ted Lasso is like making me go like, oh, should I get into the sports?
Oh, I'm gonna watch it again this weekend. That show is
I need to watch it again.
So good.
But they should transfer. They should do a story mode like they did, like the Spike Lee story mode, or like the story mode in like or NBA and like NFL, but they should do one for FIFA and it's just Ted Lasso.
If that happened, I would buy every FIFA game for the rest of my life if they just had an ongoing Ted Lasso storyline in FIFA. So I actually played FIFA pretty much every year for a long time, but then in 2019 I stopped being able to access the online features on PC for some reason. Like it just would time out every time I would try to load like Ultimate Team or like online matches, and I spent like weeks digging into it from a customer service perspective, and eventually I got the only thing I could get from them was, oh, your account's been flagged, so sorry, done. They wouldn't say anything else, which I think is because it's like 8 years ago someone hacked my Origin account and used it to buy a bunch of copies of FIFA with a credit card they stole, not my credit card, because I didn't have a card actually tied to it. And so I think because my account was used to commit credit card fraud, now on PC, they won't let me access online features in FIFA. That's a bit of a leap. I don't have a confirmation of that, but I just know that I did all of this digging and I was like, basically I was like, the next step is I'm just going to have to do a fresh install of Windows to try to get this to work. Not even because I think that FIFA Online is worth that for me, but because I was like, I just want to figure out why this isn't working. Yeah. And then finally a support person said, oh, it's related to your account. It's flagged. And when I asked them what it was flagged for, they wouldn't tell me. So
like, what are you going to do? Like, you know what that's flagged for. So you're going to like go unflag it. Like,
anyway,
stuff is so stupid.
Because I saw that it was on sale for $20 for PS Plus people on PS5, I was like, well, maybe it'll look really pretty on PS5 and maybe my account will work on PS5. Sure enough, it does, which is cool. I'm not banned, and maybe I'm no longer banned on PC. I don't know, but I'm not banned on anything on FIFA 21, and it's pretty fun. I don't think it looks particularly impressive. It's weird to me that they call this a PS5 version because it looks like the PS4 version.
It has to be better than the Switch version, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think the game is solid.
Last year's game.
That's the last 2 years game.
Yeah, I think
too.
The thing I mostly wanted it for and why it was worth $20 to me is I always wanted to try that Volta mode, which is like,
is that the like 3-on-3 or
Mars Volta mode?
I wish. No, it's like street soccer. So yes, there's 3-on-3, but it goes from 3-on-3 all the way up to 5-on-5. And it's dependent on what court you play on. So it's kind of cool because the different locations actually have different characteristics in terms of their material. I think that matters. I think the ball like bounces more on concrete than it does on grass, for example. Mm-hmm. And then some of them have walls, so you can bounce the ball off the wall, and some of them don't, which is cool. Some of them have like goals that are at the ground level, so they're only like a few feet high, so you have to kick the ball on the ground to score. Some of them have larger goals. The Dubai court is like grass
on top
and it has
of a skyscraper.
Well, yes, for starters, and it's on grass and has I don't know if it's actually on top of the skyscraper, but it's like a stadium. It has grass, and then there's an out of bounds for it, and you actually have a goalkeeper where you can have a goalkeeper on that map, and then it goes all the way down to the like is it Rio? Can't remember. No. I can't remember. There's another one that's like all the way down to having a fence, and it's 3-on-3, and you can bounce the ball off the walls, and you got to score on the ground and stuff. So it's very cool. I think I don't know if I would say that mode alone is worth $60, but for $20, I definitely am like, I haven't even touched really any of the other modes. It's hard. I'll say I'm doing the like AI games. I haven't even played online, and it's quite challenging, but they have some cool stuff. Like if you complete the event, you can get Winnie Harlow for your team, which is kind of cool. Not a soccer player, but she seems like a cool person from what I know. I don't know that much about her. And I guess they do other stuff like that where there's different kind of cool players you can unlock for your team. And it doesn't have the like the ultimate team stuff. It's not like a slot machine. It's very much like feels more like a separate product from the rest of the game, where you can kind of like just unlock stuff for doing different events. So yeah, I don't know. It's neat. FIFA is the one sports game where I actually don't even anymore. I like having it because I like the idea of just loading in and picking two kind of random equivalent in skill teams and playing a match. I don't even necessarily need to like do a whole create a player progression thing for the kind of main game. Cause I just like playing. I think it's just a fun game to play, versus something like the show, which I also like, but it's all about it being an RPG to me.
Have you ever touched any of like the soccer or football manager games?
No, I think I'd probably like them, but I think in the grand world of sports management, I would like baseball more, and I haven't bought any of those front office games.
Did you not get into one of those like F1 management?
So I was just going to say, so the one that I really like is Motorsport Manager, which I have played a fair bit of. And I think I like the presentation in Motorsport Manager so much that it would be frustrating to play Football Manager. But because Motorsport Manager has like cool visuals where you can kind of see what's happening, whereas I think Motorsport Manager is all like, it's kind of like Stratomatic, where it's like just 2D players with a feed of what's going on. But I should try them someday because I would probably really enjoy them. The thing about FIFA that I actually do like, FIFA's weird because you can play it as like a very, very simple game if you want to. I guess they do have 3D representations of the game out in Football Manager. I should try that. To me, FIFA is all about like, is now the time that I should pass, dribble, or shoot, because I'm not very good at it. And I enjoy that kind of like figuring out the answer to that puzzle. The thing I am struggling with right now is dribbling, because in Volta you have to like actually just beat defenders sometimes. You can't just pass it to somebody because of the courts are so condensed, and I have no idea how to like use the right stick to do the dribble moves effectively. But it's fun. It's stuff to try to get better at. And the PS5-ness of it is silly because it doesn't do anything with the triggers that I've noticed. It might, but I haven't noticed it. And it doesn't really look, I mean, I guess if you put them side by side, it probably looks better, but those games always run at 60 frames per second because they kind of have to. And I don't know, from what screenshots that I've seen of like the main game with real players that I haven't played that much of look pretty good. Volta, the models are not very good. They look like Sims kind of, not that art style, but like that kind of level of visual fidelity, which is fine because I don't really care that much because you're kind of zoomed out and stuff. But it's funny to me that this is like the PS5 version that came after the PS4 version, because I don't think it looks particularly impressive. It looks like a soccer game. It's not like NBA 2K where the PS5 version of that is like, whoa. So yeah, I don't know, but
now,
it's a fun game.
Imagine if they had a baseball game, like where you're managing, like you're either managing baseball or playing as a player in baseball.
Season 2 of Ted Lasso, he coaches baseball.
I don't think I want those things to come together. I don't think that one's.
He's got to help Jessica telephone through some things.
I don't know. I'm not sold. I would love a Ted Lasso style show with a different character in baseball. Like, I think I'd be okay with if Cecil from Welcome to Night Vale had a similar role with a baseball team and they did a show about that. That'd be funny.
Sure.
My crowning memory from actually playing soccer when I was like 12 was watching a bunch of the World Cup and being like, oh, this is cool. They're doing some neat stuff that I never thought about. And I was like, okay, we're going to start this round. I'm going to pass the ball back to the goalie because they do that. So the goalie can pick it up and kick it real far. And my goalie wasn't paying attention. I fucking scored on her own net.
Oh,
and
that's
everyone's
really
like,
funny.
what the fuck are you
That's
doing?
Very funny. It's very funny.
And I was like, oh.
I played soccer for about...
retired right there.
I played for about 6 years and played competitively on a travel team for a while. And it's a rough... I played midfield, which is the roughest position to play because you just run the entire game.
You're constantly moving.
But it's fun. It was fun. If I was in better shape and there wasn't COVID, I would probably be... And someone offered a slot on a pickup team, I would definitely take it because I love playing soccer. And I like playing it digitally as well. It's the sale's over. You can't get it for $20 now. And that was only for PS Plus people anyway. But I don't know if I would be thrilled if I paid $60 for it, but
is it 60 or is it 70?
Oh, I don't know. Actually, it might be 70. I think it's just 60. because I think it
2K
was
the one doing. Oh yeah, because EA doesn't have an NBA.
no EA. You just got the bonus, the newer edition,
okay.
as long as you bought it within a certain time frame, and I believe that time frame is still going on. It's basically like as long as you. I want to say it's as long as you buy it until before like a month before the next one comes out. Then you get it for free on the upgraded console.
Interesting.
But I might keep an eye out for NBA 2K sale, because I still want a sports game that looks fucking wild, and I don't want to get. I'm sorry, Chris, if you're listening. I just don't want to do the show again this year, because the last 2 years I bought the show and then barely played it. So I don't want to buy a $70 sports game to get that.
Have any of y'all? This will be my last sports question, but have any of y'all played Super Mega Baseball 1, 2, or 3?
Played a little bit of that.
I
once.
should. I bet I would
pretty-
love.
It's
Yeah,
pretty fun.
Yeah,
I bet I
also
would
made-
love those games.
It's also made by a studio that's in the same office as my office.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, interesting.
Doxing yourself a little bit there.
Whatever, it's fine.
But yeah, I bet I would like those games. I like the show a lot.
They're
It's
fun.
not a problem with that. It's more just the show comes out and then there's like 5 or 6 indie games that come out, and then I'm like, oh, I guess I'm never playing the show again.
Indie games, you say?
Yeah, there you go. Good job. Good job.
Indie
Figured that out.
games like Loop Hero, maybe.
Yeah.
But you know what else is like baseball? Loop Hero, a game where you run in a circle
Yeah,
over and over again.
There's something there. Yeah. Okay. The PS4 version of NBA 2K21 is on sale for $20. The PS5 version, however, is $70.
Ugh,
It's ridiculous.
that is.
It's ridiculous. Anyway, Loop Hero is really good. I guess just
All
I
right.
think just you and I played
Thanks,
it, right,
everyone.
Andre?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
played like 5 hours of it.
Yeah. Which, considering that it
Today.
came out like, yeah.
I played it all today. I
played,
like
like,
noon.
Let's see, I think I played like 3.5 hours. Yeah, 3.5 hours of it myself in like on a busy work day where I also had other game stuff that was scheduled for last night. I found 3.5 hours to put in Loop Hero. It's a really good game. It's the first like unique kind of new interesting feeling. Like I don't feel like I'm like it's just a takeoff of something else. It feels like it's its own thing in a way that I haven't seen in a while.
Yeah, it's a roguelite, but it's like a roguelite slash an idle game slash I don't know, something else that I can't think of.
Yeah, I mean strategy
City builder.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, so the setup for Loop Hero is the world was kind of absorbed into darkness or something. Nothing's left really except you, and you've got like a bit of amnesia, and basically you're recreating the world with like, oh, I think I remember like this being here, and you're placing like cards onto a map that correspond to locations like a grove or a spider nest or like a town, village, stuff like that. And it's all on this loop, hence the term Loop Hero, the name. And your hero, the Loop Hero, is just walking through this loop. You can basically stop them, make them go twice as fast, or just let them go. That's all you can do. And so they're going around and you're just putting stuff on. And as they kill stuff, they get items. And you kind of build up this bar, which will take you to the boss once you like place enough stuff on the map. And then that's how you get some story stuff unlocked. And that's kind of the basic gist of it.
Yeah. It's at first, it seems very much like at first it's fun because it's fun to watch the stuff go up and roll in and like watch the character go around and do the stuff, hit the things. But you start to understand that like there are strategies and combos to where you place things and how you place them that allows you that will like set up dominoes sort of to kind of increase your power level on a like a sustainable level so that you can get strong enough to fight the boss at the end.
It's a bit of a deck builder. So you can, like, you're definitely trying to choose the right like cards to have like come up so you can make those combos.
Yep. And you're unlocking cards, you're collecting resources as you go around the map and do your loops, and then those are letting you rebuild pieces of your camp into like sort of like a little town.
Yeah.
And that's where you're unlocking new cards, and then between the loops you can like set up your new deck basically.
Yeah.
And we're talking the deck of like 7 to 12 cards. That's sort of, those are the upper and the lower and upper limits.
Yeah.
And it's just, the cards start super simple and then slowly get really interesting. Things like there's a card called the Blood Grove. You can only place it next to groves. So you have your like path and you place a grove down, and every 2 days of game time, which there's a little counter that ticks up for days. It's not the amount of loops that you do. It's separate from the amount of loops.
Yeah.
But every 2 days in game time, it'll spawn like a dog enemy in the grove. They're not that hard. They're a little harder than the basic slimes that show up, but they're not that hard. If you place a blood grove next to it, all 3 of the spaces adjacent to the blood grove, so like the blood grove's next to the road. So
it's not even necessarily, it's like it's a 3x3 grid.
That's true. Yeah.
So depending on where it is, you could hit it on more.
Yes.
Because the bloop is not a perfect circle. It's like got zigzags, and
so it could have like 6 adjacent spaces.
Yeah.
It'll never have all of them, all 9 adjacent.
It could have up to 7 is the max.
But anyway, you can only place it next to a blood grove, but once you place it, anytime something gets below 20% health in the spaces around it, I think it's 15%, maybe.
It's 15.
Then the blood grove eats it. So it allows you to kill things faster, but eventually the blood grove will spawn this like flesh golem thing that's like reconstituted parts of all the stuff that it's eaten. And it's a really hard enemy that can kind of roadblock you. So it's like you can make your loops more efficient by placing it, because you kill things faster and use less health up basically to kill things. But also then eventually you're going to have to fight this big monster there, which maybe you have a card in your hand that lets you destroy stuff on a space. So it's perfect because you just sit on that card, and then when the flesh golem spawns, you just kill it. But maybe you also have done what I do all the time, which is placed a vampire mansion next to a spot that goblins then spawn across from after you place the vampire mansion, and it's like next to a spider silk thing, and now there's like 2 goblins, 2 spiders, and a vampire in that spot, and you need that oblivion card to clear that spot, but they're just going to respawn. So how are you going to deal with that? So it's interesting that even though the game doesn't give you any direct control over the character at all, aside from what equipment they're wearing and like putting stuff in their path, you get these kind of choices to make. And the game doesn't, if this were like, so I've been playing like 13 Sentinels too, right? And this isn't a knock against 13 Sentinels.
13 Sentinels 2 is already out. What?
I'm enjoying it, but 13 Sentinels has a like 8 mission strategy tutorial, and the strategy part of that game is not that complicated. It's pretty, if you've played like Fire Emblem or whatever, it's not like Fire Emblem, but if you've played a game with that much weight, you don't really even need a tutorial. You could figure it out. And it takes like 2 hours to play through that tutorial. On the flip side, something like Loop Hero, they give you the very basics, and then from then on out, you have to figure out how the systems are working by observing them and by, reading the card text and looking at stats and stuff. And I think that the way that because it's a game that kind of plays itself while you're figuring this stuff out, sometimes I'll just be staring at like what's going on and suddenly go like, oh, that's how this works. And that feeling is so good.
It's like the most satisfying feeling in the world.
Yes, because you figured it out on your own. The game didn't tell you what it's doing. You figured out that like, oh, if I put I don't want to spoil too many of those moments because they're fun, but like there's certain cards that you place them outside of the like loop area, and they don't have an effect on what's happening on the path. They actually affect the character's stats. So when you play like Meadows, for example, You never walk through those. They're often like the distance sort of, but your character heals +2 hit points every morning for each meadow that you have down. There's also mountains where your character gets more hit points as however many mountains you have for max hit points. And if you put the mountains next to each other, then it stacks and you get bonus hit points. So there's a card called a treasury, which is when you place the treasury, anytime you place those types of tiles around it, you get bonus resources. So the things that you use to upgrade the town in between, or the camp in between expeditions. So I had a moment where I was like, wait a minute. Okay. So if I want to farm resources with this loop and or expedition, and I'm not concerned about beating the boss right now, it makes sense for me to hold my meadows. Yep. Because then I can play a bunch of them around a treasury as soon as I get a treasury card. But also by holding the meadows, you're kind of like hamstringing the character because the character isn't healing as much. So you have to kind of do this risk reward, like push your luck thing where it's like, well, how long am I willing to wait for a treasury before I start playing these meadows? Because without the meadows out, I'm steadily losing health. So it's going to mean that my loop won't last, my expedition won't last as long. And those kinds of choices to make are really interesting. And as you start to understand the mechanics, you start to come to realize that like the placement of most stuff has some kind of choice like that associated with it. They're just not clear from when you started playing that like, oh, putting a grove here does this for me in terms of my overall board and efficiency. It's very like board game like in that way to me, where I could totally see this game could work as a tabletop game very easily. Just instead of having a real-time timer every step of the game, every turn, the character would move automatically. But I bet I could make this work on a tabletop like with a day of printing out some cards and stuff.
I was just looking up something else, but yeah, Loop Hero seems very cool. I beat the first boss and I unlocked like the second class, and the second class is neat because it has a different loadout. So you're having to think about like, okay, you're comboing different like equipment together because not every class can use every like equipment slot. So the second class has like 2 weapons instead of a shield.
That's cool.
And it's got like more evasion focused. So that's just neat.
The only thing that's concerning to me about it, and this isn't a real thing shouldn't dissuade anyone from picking it up, but I look at the camp and I'm like, I wonder if this is like kind of done after like 12 hours of playing it, because there's not a ton of buildings. There's enough that like it's going to take you some time to build them all, but it's also like there's like 10 or 11 buildings, something like that in total in the camp that you can build. And I've built 3 of them, and I'm sure they get exponentially harder to build as time goes on. But my only worry is that I'm going to do everything in this game and then not have any more of it to play. But that shouldn't dissuade anyone, because
there are worse problems to have with the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely like the first true surprise of the year for me, where I'm like, oh, this is like an exceptionally good game that would probably end up on year-end lists and stuff for me. Just kind of having that feeling about it. And that's been exciting.
Very much so. It like just came out of nowhere. Devolver joint. Like, oh, okay. I guess we're checking this out. Yeah.
I suspect it'll come to other platforms too, because
this is a game that I think would be very good on iPad. Like being able to pay attention is like very nice for it, but if you could just like, let it go on iPad and mess around with it while you're doing something else on the go or whatever, that'd be on the couch, wherever you are.
Yeah. In fact, I just saw, I'm not even looking at Twitter, it just happens to be up, and a tweet popped up from one Patrick Klepek saying, FYI, for people curious about Loop Hero and don't have a PC, I've largely been playing through an iPad using GeForce Now, and it works mostly great. The mouse input is a little wonky, but it's completely playable and so convenient. The game is perfect for TV watching. So there you go. But as I said earlier, I think before we started recording, I also last night had headphones on, blasting the music because the music is incredible. And I was reading every single stat and like drilling way into how to play the game. So it's not like you can totally let it run and play it like a TV game. But if you want to sit and play it, it's still very crunchy and still like has a lot going on mechanically. So there's plenty there to figure out and puzzle at. So yeah, that's good for both kind of modes.
All right. Well, how about we move on to, from a surprise to something we've been looking forward to for a while with Allison and Gnosia?
Gnosia? I don't 1000% know.
I don't Gnosia.
I was like, I posted about it in a Facebook group I'm in, and they're like, oh, how do you pronounce it? And I'm like, ooh, you asked me the one question about this game I can't really do well. Anyways, so this game was first showcased on one of the Nintendo indie streams. I immediately was like, I need this game in my life. And it became kind of maybe my most anticipated game that wasn't out. And they just released it this week. Woo. So this game has been out in Japan for several years at this point. I think they released it in 2019. And it's basically like a mafia or werewolf type game, but with time loops, and it's all single player. So it's like people have basically been comparing it to Among Us, which is totally legitimate, to the point where there have been times where they've said that there are Gnosia Among Us, and I was like, well, look at that translation in here. But I mean, I guess it's hard to avoid. But yeah, so it's basically you have to you're going through these time loops, and you have to find out who the imposter is, like in Among Us. But here it's more of like kind of a traditional kind of like mafia or werewolf type game where there are the specific roles that people play, and it's less like, hey, how are people playing this and doing this and witnessing things, to like deduction and trying to figure out how people are lying. So like, for example, there's the role of the engineer who can at the end of each day can scan and see if somebody is Gnosia or not. But you can announce that you're the engineer even if you're not the engineer. So naturally, a lot of times there might be some like two people who are like, I'm the engineer. No, wait, I'm the engineer.
I'm the engineer.
So you're like, I don't know if either of you is. Like, one of you is suspicious because like only one person can be the engineer. But like it's I
think you mean sus.
Sus, yes, exactly. But it's like there's like a lot of that kind of thing, and then it's gotten so far pretty dang good at you having to maintain like yourself not being sus. For example, I was playing a loop, and they were like, I don't know about Allison. She's sus. And then there's another person that was kind of going back and forth and was kind of like a detractor of mine. And then at the end of each day, the Gnosia basically kill one person. And that was the person who killed, and they're like, the one person who's going against Allison is dead. I think maybe it's Allison. And I'm like, oh shit, it's not me. But also like it had like the characters in the game also did that kind of like deduction of it as well, which is fun. But also there's like a level of, you want to influence people, but like the more that you talk, they're like, Allison is talking a whole lot. That's got to be a little bit suspicious, and we might want to get rid of her. So it's like there's just like a lot of social kind of things, which is I think done really well for especially being like a single player game. And I'm interested to see where it goes, because I know that you, through all these time loops, you unlock a lot more of the story. There's also like 6 stats that you can kind of constantly improve on between the loops. So you're kind of becoming a little bit like more and more charismatic, more and more logical, and you can kind of see if somebody's lying. Although the first time I noticed somebody was lying was literally after they basically were like, "Oh, I wish the best for you, Allison." And it was like, she's lying. And I was like, oh no, I'm gonna die. And then he was killed. And it's like, well, okay. So it was like, there's a lot of fun kind of things like that, where you're just like, where you figure something out and you're like, well, that's too late. Shit.
It sounds like there's almost horror elements to the
absolutely
story, which is really cool.
Because the story is basically like you're on this spaceship and you left this space station after they had like an attack of Gnosia. And Gnosia is basically like aliens that look like humans, but they're not aliens from this like race called the GNOS, that are trying to basically eliminate all humans. So it's like it's very much like, yeah, there's people are dying and you don't know who's here and who wants to like kill everybody, but also you can play as the Gnosia as well. So it's like there's like when you jump into that, you're like it's very, very weird, and there is a little bit of like horror and science fiction. And like a lot of the dialogue, especially like when you're discussing things, is pretty light, because I mean, it is like generating these scenarios individually, right? So it's not like they're writing each scenario or each loop on its own, but at the same time, like you start getting kind of a feel for who these characters are, and they also have really good character designs as well. So you're just kind of like, you start kind of liking these characters, and then they at the end, if the Gnosia have all taken over, like one of them will like reveal themselves in a like, I'm actually Gnosia, and like they look different, and you're just like, man, I liked you.
Does it? So I think the biggest question I have about it is I know that it's kind of like randomized what the result, like who's Gnosia and what the results are.
Yeah.
So does it still feel like it has a narrative through line, or does it feel more like you're playing werewolf, I guess? I
mean, it feels like, okay, so each individual loop you are playing basically a game of werewolf, right?
Yeah.
So it's like so it's not necessarily that, but each time you're starting to kind of like unlock more about who these characters are.
Cool.
And there is like this overall arching mystery of like, okay, why am I in this time loop? What is this like what is going on with this? And you start learning more information, and each I think that if you get to certain points with certain conditions, like you win with certain characters or you lose with certain characters or whatever, you start like unlocking kind of more of that story stuff.
Cool.
So I
guess even more than that, I'm wondering if like in the loops, if the writing feels like you're drawing a card from a deck, where like it feels like disconnected and not
bit. It's like it is a little bit like, I mean, since it is generated, like,
yeah, sure, some of that
there's like an element of like I've heard the same kind of text from this character about saying so and so is suspicious, or so and so is, I think so and so is Gnosia, but like so it definitely feels like, okay, I'm playing virtual werewolf, but at the same time I don't really have an issue with that, especially since these loops take usually like 5 to 10 minutes, maybe. Like they go fast. I brought my Switch with me to work yesterday, and I was playing. I basically ate my lunch super quickly and just played Gnosia through the rest of my lunch break, and I got like a good like 4 or 5 loops. So it's like you're moving through it fast to unlock stuff.
Cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's definitely one I intend to check out. I was actually going to play it this weekend, but then Loop Hero came out. And I also got Teardown on sale, which we don't have to talk about, but that game's cool too. And I played a bunch of that. So
yeah, no, this is just one that I've been anticipating for quite a while. So sure. I'm very excited. I was just like, I saw it and I was like, yes. And also I do think that they do a really good job of easing you into the game too, because the tutorial loops are basically like they kind of slowly introduce characters and the roles and things, but I think in a really good pace, because like once you get to a lot of it, you're like, okay, there's 15 characters, there's like several different roles, and there's just like a lot of stuff going on, whereas it's here, it just kind of like slowly goes, okay, this loop now we have the engineer, this loop we now have the doctor who can tell if somebody we put into deep freeze, which is what we do at the end of voting, was Gnosia or not. Or here we have someone who is definitely, we can like, they've announced that they are definitely human, but you're like, is that true? I don't, there's like, they start like building and building and building. So I think the tutorial is really well done. So
cool. Yeah, I still intend to check it out.
Also, the characters are good. There's one who's a dolphin in a suit, and I love her. I would die for Otome the dolphin.
So is there a win condition for like winning the entire game? Like, I imagine if you win one round, that's not the end of the game, right?
So no, because I've definitely won a round before. Like a lot of the rounds you're just like, you lose, but like I won a round, which is a kind of a sad win condition, because there are two of us left and we're like, we did it, everybody's dead, but we did it. But no, there's like, I think it's just like you have to keep unlocking stuff and unlocking the story, and I've seen people talk about how many loops it took them to get to the ending, so it's there is like overarching story and there's overarching stuff, but you have to work to get it. Like, and I saw people talk about how it was at least like a 20-hour game. So it's like you're playing a lot of these loops and a lot of these games to get to that stuff. But each loop you can get like experience to use to level up things, or like I feel like you kind of learn the systems a little bit better. Like for example, if you're tussling with somebody in the debates and then they die right after, then they're immediately going to suspect you and be like, hey, that's kind of weird. So it's like, and then you start learning more and more about the characters, like how like some of them are a lot more logical than others. Some of them are a lot more like charming than others. So they're, you're not going to be able to convince anybody that they're Gnosia and stuff like that.
I made the worst segue. I could have just made a whole segue about loops, and I didn't. It was right there. It's right there.
Anyways, I'm enjoying
not particularly
myself.
Heroic of you, Andre. Loop hero. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to episode 160.
Yeah, we gotta start the
Gaming
show
Fyx
over.
Podcast. No, this is a loop, baby.
I'm stopping my recording. I'm deleting it.
Oh no. Okay. Joseph Gordon-Levitt on the minute.
Yeah. Well, we just passed a minute, so
we got plenty of time. So how about that MCU?
Oh no. So Allison,
Mm-hmm.
do you recommend it?
Mm-hmm.
I know, like, it sounds like you're pretty glowing on it. I just wanted to be very blunt. Do you recommend it?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like, I feel like if it's not a game for everybody, I would say, but it's definitely like, if you hear it and you go, oh, that sounds kind of interesting, I would recommend checking it out. It's $25 on Switch, which might be a little expensive, but also it's like, I think it's reasonable, especially since it is like 20 hours at least. So
yeah, if it's a 20-hour game, I don't think there's anything
also
wrong
like
with
the
that.
art is beautiful and the music is so far really good. So I think it's a really unique kind of fun experience that I would recommend putting your time and money into.
Cool.
All right, nice. How about you, Alex? would you put your time and or money into either of the games you brought this week?
Well, I did.
Would you do it again?
Well, I at least put time into both. I didn't put money into both.
One's a PS Plus game, right?
For PS5, yes, but I don't have a PS5.
Oh,
so I played it on
that.
PC.
Okay.
So let's just talk about that one. And that is, if y'all have not heard of it or seen, you should play it for free, I think. And that is Maquette. And
it's like that bread thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like long bread.
A maquette.
Yeah.
That's wide. You're thinking of a baguette. A maquette is really wide. It's like, this is like a baguette, and this is a maquette.
This plays really well over audio. So yeah, we talked about Maquette probably. When did they show that? Last year at some point?
I've never heard of this game.
Allison, you and I were pretty hot on it when we saw it.
Yeah.
And then,
like,
they put out,
I don't remember when.
Yeah, and then they put out that voice actor trailer that had Bryce Dallas Howard and Seth Gable in it, and we were like, oh yeah, because it was showing more of the mechanics there. And the mechanics are basically, they call it a recursive puzzle game. And it's kind of similar to like Superliminal, if anybody's played that. Erica talked about it when she was here last, but which is you're like manipulating the size of objects that are in the world to solve puzzles. But it also kind of has the open world walkiness of The Witness, but it's not entirely open world. Like you're still confined to stages, but they're pretty big. But it also has a narrative, very similar to something like Florence. So like it's put out by Annapurna, so that's not particularly surprising. They like to do those kind of indie darling emotional story, like touching on human element kind of stuff. And the story of it is actually really good, and the voice acting is really good, and like the visuals are stunningly beautiful. Like there's parts.
It looks really neat.
Yeah, there's parts of it that are just ultra gorgeous. Like even in the intro, but near the end, there's some stuff that's really, really fantastic. Music is really good. It does like this weird, like you can't tell if it's like diegetic in the world or if it's supposed to be something that's out in the world. Cause like you're kind of playing through the main character's memories in a way, starting with the start of a relationship. And it's not a spoiler to say it goes to the end of the relationship. Like it's pretty clear from the very beginning that that's what the story is about. And yeah, like the set dressing around all of it is really good. So it is a really good game, but it's a really good game encapsulated within kind of a terrible game because the controls are fucking atrocious. Like really, really fucking bad. Like I love everything about it, but playing it is actively terrible. Like I have pretty high tolerance for that, where I can overlook. I love the missing.
Alex and I have like we've pushed through games that have bad gameplay for the story.
Oh, yeah. Like I love
Paper Mario, the Origami King.
I do.
But like, yeah, like I love the missing, and like
me too.
That had bad gameplay, but it was like mediocre gameplay at best, and then sometimes it wouldn't control right, and you'd be like, ugh. But this one,
the only time that it got in the way of enjoying the game was the final thing. That's the only time that the gameplay being bad. Yes, yeah.
Like this one, it's like the first hour, it was fine. The first hour felt pretty polished, but after that, I don't know if like the polish went away, but it's like you're trying to control stuff, and like you're trying to rotate something, and then it's just resetting itself all the time, and then like you rotate it, and then it moves like your character back 20 steps and like resets the puzzle, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then there was another time where I completely soft locked myself. Like I thought I found a solution to this puzzle, I acted upon it, and then it got me into this area where you need a key to get into, and it's like, okay, it played its cutscene, it played all this stuff, and then it's like, okay, finish your stuff in here, then go back out the door. And it's like, but I didn't come in the door, I went this other way that you trained me that I could go through. Like you can change sizes of things, and like by doing so I was able to get through. It's like, oh yeah, this is very obviously a way I can get in because you've trained me. Went in, and then I couldn't get out the door, so like I was trapped in this location, and I was like, well, what the fuck? What do I do? So I had to reset, and like, because my autosave had saved me in like right before that cutscene. And it's like, well, I just lost like half an hour of progress. So cool. And then right near the end of the game, like 20 minutes from the end, it popped up a tooltip being like, oh, hey, if you ever get lost, just hold down this button and you can reset to the center of the stage. And it's like, that would have been great information to know in the intro when you were doing like the rest of the control tutorials. Like
is it possible that you just like they did it and you just missed it?
No, I made a point to also go and watch some streams and videos of other people who've been playing it, and happened to at least 2 other people that I saw, and they also had to reset, and I was like,
okay,
that's that's poorly done UI, like that's poorly done transfer, like
yeah,
like the transfer of information to the player, and like what you're reading from the environment was bad. So
maybe maybe there's like a bug in that tooltip or something.
Maybe, but like they've said on their Twitter and stuff like that like they're receiving the glitch reports, they're looking into fixing them, so it's possible that those issues will be gone.
I also saw on Twitter that basically the Arabic text in that game is completely illegible, and it's like they put it in Google Translate or something, and then like I'm sure they did do a real translation, but none of the text is connected, so you can't read it. I mean, it's
a lot of that from what I've been seeing recently, like seeing like people like Rami talk about it, is like the tools that people use for game, like for making games, can't like parse Arabic text because it has like particular characters in it, and the software doesn't know how to parse it. And that's on them for not like going in like, hey, did this work right? But so there's like it's pipeline issue there that like it's an issue that plagues a lot of games. Like Hitman 3 had a similar thing, but they like made a point, hey, we fixed it.
Yeah, which the Annapurna I think responded to one of Rami's tweets about it and said like, oh yeah, we're looking into this. But I think it's like, it is unfortunate that it's like, clearly someone is just not paying attention to that. I mean, if it were me and that came out, I would say, oh no, we need to fix this before the game comes out, because you can't read this. And
I mean,
in the case of Hitman, it's like, and this is a level set in Dubai. So it's not even just an issue of, it's bad enough to just be like, Arabic players, whatever. But it's also like part of the level design for everyone who plays that game. So but in the case of Maquette, I say it less to say screw them, they don't care about people. That's not my point. It's more that it sounds like there are a lot of issues for them to kind of wrap up. I'm probably going to wait to play it until some of that stuff has been a little more polished out.
I imagine if you wait a couple weeks for a couple patches, assuming they do that, then that will be the time to play it, because it is, like I said, it's a good game that's just wrapped in a bad game, because the bad game parts of it are pretty overwhelming to the point where it's like, I don't know if I would recommend it for the asking price, like, because I paid for it. But if you're doing it free on PS Plus, then it's probably still worth it. But the story it tells is really good. I really enjoyed like everything except the act of playing it, which was actively terrible. But yeah, I don't know. It's a struggle because it is so good and the puzzles are so strong. But then again, some of the puzzles it communicates what it wants you to do very poorly. So like, I've been thinking about, if I were to review it, what score would I give it? And it floats between a 2 and a 3 out of 5, because like some parts of it are really excellent, but some parts of it are really, really, really bad.
It sounds like it's super short too.
You can probably beat it in 3 hours if you're relatively slow, like not slow, if you're like going at it at like a walking pace and you're thinking about things and kind of taking in the environment. But like there's a set of achievements which is basically for speed running it, which I found weird, but I guess sure. So if you know the solution, it's a puzzle game. If you know the solutions, you can get through it really fast, but like it's intended to be thought about. So yeah, Maquette, it's a mixed bag, I guess. But Yeah.
All right. There's a next game I don't know if we should actually talk about.
I don't know if I can talk about it, but YOLO.
People are getting like footage pulled off social media.
Yeah, I think it probably is a no-go to
I think you can
I think
say you're playing it, but
I think footage of it is not allowed. I did not sign any kind of NDA.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but you did probably. Did you agree to terms and conditions?
Yes.
And you love swords.
I did.
Okay.
And I looked through it, but I didn't see any NDA kind of stuff about it. And for clarity, this is Pokemon Unite, which is kind of the MOBA Pokemon game.
In case to anyone for Pokemon companies listening, Alex is choosing to talk about this on an open forum. Don't sue the rest of us.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly talking about
Alex
a game that
allegedly
may or may not
played
be
this
Pokemon
game.
Unite.
Allegedly, maybe.
Maybe
this alleged game.
Maybe I watched someone over their shoulder as they were playing it.
That would be extra bad because then you handed someone your device to let them play, and you're going to talk about how you did that
you were within the shoulder distance of somebody.
I'm also. I don't think
COVID.
It's a regional beta thing. I don't think that it's. I think you're fine to talk about it.
Yeah, it's closed and people are getting like footage taken down. But
no, Frank was playing it, and I was watching Frank. Frank being my cat, of course. So yeah, it's a MOBA. It's kind of a weird MOBA in terms of its structure, where like I played a lot of Dota. I have like 5,000 hours logged in Dota, so I know MOBAs, if kind of at least. And this one, it's not traditional in that like you have multiple lanes and you're pushing towards some kind of goal. Like that's in there, but you have basically 2 lanes where you're collecting score. Like you as an individual player are collecting score. Like that's kind of ambiguous, but I'll get back to it. And then you're kind of going to these goal posts at the other team's side and then like depositing your score. And then whichever team has more score at the end wins. That's literally all it is. So like you can take a bunch of team fights and win all of them, but if you never deposit a single score and the other team deposits 1, then like they win. So it's it's all about
catch the golden snitch.
Yeah, totally. It's all about the golden snitch, the golden
score.
I'm trying to think of a Pokemon, the golden Celebi, whatever. It's a small one that
Sure.
you can probably catch in your hand.
Sure.
But so there's multiple ways to do it. There are kind of neutral Pokemon that are just hanging around. Like I don't remember the names of them. I think they're relatively new ones, so I don't know them that well. There's like a lobster, so whatever the lobster is.
Something.
Crawdad, sure. And like you
know.
can like in the early game you can kind of murder those and get some easy points, and that helps you level up because you have abilities. You're playing as an individual Pokemon. Like I've been maining Alolan Ninetales because it's got like all these base abilities.
Good choice.
Yeah, like it's awesome. Well, also Alolan Ninetales also just kicks ass, but
True, absolutely.
but yeah, like so yeah, you get abilities because it's a MOBA. You have an auto attack, and then you have 3 abilities from the characters I've seen. One of which can be an ultimate, and then as you level up, you are just leveling those up, and you get there's 3 abilities, but with the 2 lower ones and then 1 ultimate basically. And with the 2 lower ones, you can kind of choose a path for which ability you want. So you'll have 1 slot, but 2 abilities that you can choose from. And then the second slot with a second set of 2 abilities. So if you feel like it'll help your team comp to do one versus the other, like you can change it up game to game. So that's pretty good. And I think for a mobile game, it plays pretty well, honestly. Like the movement feels good. Like I've never had network issues actually. Like I've never seen people like bouncing around with lag or whatever. It's been pretty smooth. I've had a couple people kind of AFKing or disappearing, just leaving the game, but whatever. Like that's been in just kind of pub play. There is also a ranked mode. I don't know how that works. I haven't tried it yet. I just unlocked it last night.
It's like the normal mode, but people call you slurs when you try to play it because they get more angry about it.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, there's no voice chat.
Oh, that's good.
Like it looks like
you. They find your phone number and they call you slurs.
Yeah, that they go through the Switch Online app.
This isn't Valorant.
Yep.
Come on.
Yeah. But it looks like there is the ability for them to do that. Like there is a little microphone and headphone icon in the bottom left corner, but like I don't know how it works. There is a lot of broken UI. Yeah, there's a lot of broken UI elements in this. It is a beta, like it's a straight up beta where like it'll pop up a tooltip and the tooltip will just be empty. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. Thanks. I don't know what this does. And yeah, I think overall it's really good. It's 10 minutes. Like it's never going to be more than 10 minutes. It's a straight up 10-minute clock. Once the clock runs out, the game is over, because it's all about that score. And there's like events that happen. Like there's going to be big, like Zapdos will spawn. And if your team kills Zapdos, then you get this buff for like the next 30 seconds. And like every time you do a touchdown, it's instantaneous. Cause otherwise like, it depends on how much score you're depositing. If you're depositing 1, it's really fast. If you're depositing 50, it's really slow. So there's more opportunity for them to like attack you and cancel you out of it. So like there's strategy, there's teamwork. It's pretty good, but I have one complaint. And again, this is coming from a Dota person who like Dota is historically known as being probably the most complicated or among the most complicated of the MOBAs, where like you have lots of micro heavy characters and stuff like that. And just a lot of, control options. This one, I wish you had a little more control options because with your abilities, you can't target them really. Like there's an AoE around you and it'll automatically target like the nearest enemy. And like, you can tell it like, oh, target the lowest HP enemy or whatever, like lowest HP by number or percentage or whatever. But like, I would really love to be able to just like, Alolan Ninetales has an ability where she can shoot out this ice thing and then it leaves an ice wall to block a path. It would be great if I could aim that like 10 feet back from one of the characters instead of me misjudging the distance and then hitting it and then it goes and attacks a neutral. Like it targets a neutral and I'm like, well, that's not actually where I want that to go. Okay, now I've wasted this ability. We can't fight, kind of stuff. So like I wish it had a little bit more granular control, and it does have what it calls an advanced control mode, but the tooltips are broken for it, so I don't know how it works. And as far as I can tell, I can't like tap on an area.
Too advanced.
It's too advanced. Too scary. It's too much micro for me. I don't know. But
it's
yeah,
it's all cerebral like Link.
Oh, that's what that device was for that they sent along. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's good. I think if you have an Android phone, you should get into it because
Canada only.
Is it Canada only? Oh, I was gonna say also depending on your region, but
people are talking about it on Reddit, so it seems like
there are ways to get like regional. It's you just have to make a Google account for that region. It's easy, but
yeah,
like
if you have Android,
it's worth it for.
I wonder if you could do it on like a BlueStacks or something.
Actually, you probably could.
Yeah.
Probably. That'd probably be a pretty easy way to do it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it'd be the same as doing it on your phone. Like you just do it. Yeah. It's because it's like trivial on Android to do that. So because you just need to change the account on the store. Like you can have like multiple accounts and different like regions. So it's like easy, but
yeah. But
if you're an iOS user, you can use BlueStacks to do that kind of stuff.
That bugs me so much about iOS.
What, that you can't change your region around?
You can't have multiple accounts, like multiple regions. Yeah.
But no, game is
or
good.
Even multiple users. Yeah.
I bet once the actual release comes out and it's on multiple platforms, it'll be even better. The free to playness of it is very generous thus far. I've never encountered anything where it felt like it was pushing pay to do whatever stuff. And
well, pre-release stuff, you can never really trust that.
Yeah,
exactly. Like I don't know, they might change that, but I will say that it's been good. And like I have so much currency that there's like nothing I need to spend it on right now, because it's like I have tons of it and I have everything I want for the moment, and it feels balanced and fun. So yeah, it's good. I recommend it, and play it if you have the opportunity. It seems good.
I'm definitely gonna try
the Switch eventually.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna try it at some point.
It's coming to Switch tonight.
Spot for it.
I would assume that it'll have controller support on phones too when it comes out all the way.
I wonder how that would work. I think it would
Tencent's
be
usually
fine,
pretty
but...
good about that.
the same way it works on Switch, presumably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying with controllers in general versus a touchscreen. I'm curious how that would work, but I imagine it would be fine.
It might use a combination of both for the Switch too.
Yeah,
because it does have a touchscreen.
Maybe if you could pick a target with the touchscreen, like I really want to do. But yeah,
I mean, it's always possible they'll add stuff like that too, because
it is.
I don't know.
Beta.
Yeah,
they've been pushing out updates like every 2 days that I've been playing it. So,
and that studio supports their games fairly well until they don't. They tend to drop them when they're no longer popular, but I would imagine with Nintendo behind them, they're gonna
it's like Pokemon. It's that's not
Teamy. Is that the studio?
They're the ones who made Arena of Valor, I think.
I know it's put out by Tencent.
Yeah, they're owned by Tencent, the studio that made it, from what I understand.
It is Teamy. I just saw that. They made Call of Duty Mobile, Arena of Valor, and a bunch of other...
Arena of Valor is an interesting... It's interesting because it's like... it seems like they don't develop it anymore. I don't know if that's true on mobile or not, but they made a big deal about it coming to Switch, and the Switch version didn't take off, and then they were like, never mind. And they just stopped developing it, like when it was basically still in beta. And you can still download it and pay money for characters for it, but nowhere does it tell you when you're going in that like, hey, this is abandoned. So not the most ethical studio in the world, but with Pokemon, you would hope that won't happen because it's Pokemon.
Yeah, I imagine the license holders would not stand for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you feel any particular drive to discuss either of these two things that you put on this list in addition to those two games?
Oh, I'll just touch on them really briefly. One, I watched like 3/4 of the Monster Hunter movie.
Why did you cut out at 3/4?
No, I missed the first quarter. I did not stop at 3/4 of the way through. A friend was watching it. No, a friend was watching it and sharing screen and in like a group setting, and I was just getting back from a run by the time they had started, and then they sent me a message being like, "Hey, do you want to watch this?" And I was like, "Sure, yeah, but I'll be
gonna go to prison."
Yeah,
his friend is gonna go to prison.
Yeah.
I'm not saying where this friend is from or the copyright laws in their region, but so I saw the last 3/4 of that movie, so it sounds like I didn't miss much in the intro according to her, but that movie
is military or something, transferred to some other world. There's a cat. Is the cat horny for Mila Jovovich? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, it's like 1-2 second scene and it's dumb. But
does he like his eyes pop out of his head and like steam pours out of his ears and he goes like auga auga?
Yeah, it's basically Roger Rabbit, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but with Mila Jovovich.
They need to nerf the cat.
Nerf. Never mind. I was gonna make a joke about it with like Nerf guns and Monster Hunter.
Nerf or nothing.
Yeah. The models in that
Nerf
game
for hunting.
That movie, like the monster models in that movie look excellent, and the animations are excellent. But holy shit, that movie's not very good.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think I've missed anything by not watching it at all.
No, the story is terrible. The characters are not particularly good, and it has moments though. Like if you want a dumb action movie, it's good at that. But if you want a story that has anything to say, it ain't got that.
It feels like there's so many dumb action movies that exist.
Yeah, but like, this one's got the Monster Hunter monsters.
Yeah, and they look really good, and they do justice by the Monster Hunter monsters. And like she does fine, but like the characters are. It feels very soulless for most of it, and Ron Perlman shows up, and he's kind of rad, but. Like,
okay,
I don't know.
I'll probably watch this movie eventually.
It's worth a watch, and it's oddly horror-y. Like, it has moments of just straight up like, oh, you like Alien, like straight up the original Alien. It's like, oh, all right, cool. Like, so like it has moments. It's not a very good movie, and the ending is extremely dumb. Like to the point.
I saw all the Resident Evil movies.
Yeah, you know how Resident Evil 3 ends, the movie, I mean? Yeah. And it's like, oh, it's setting something up for the next one. That's what this is.
Oh
like,
God! Don't make more. No,
they're all like that.
Yeah, no,
Of
they
course
are.
they're.
But like,
Of
three,
course they're
three
setting
is-
something up for the next one.
3 is egregious about it. Like 2 wasn't that bad, but for Resident Evil, I mean, but 3 was pretty bad. It's like,
if they
in the last 2 minutes, I'm gonna have this big thing turn on its head, all credits, and it's like, oh, okay.
I don't want to live in a world where we're getting a Monster Hunter movie every 4 years. That sounds awful.
Yeah, it's if you can watch it for free on some kind of, or not free, but like on a streaming service, like if it comes to a Netflix or a Hulu or whatever, watch it. It's fine, but it's not good.
Give me the Brendan Fraser Monster Hunter movie.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh, now there's a
pretty good.
franchise. That's a
Shit.
like The Mummy. Great dumb action movie. You want a dumb action movie? You're all set. Right there. You want a movie with dragons in it? Reign of Fire. Go watch Reign of Fire. That movie sucks. It's
The
fun
Mummy,
to
the
watch.
Dragon Return, is it the Dragon Returns? Tomb of the
that
Dragon
one-
King. Tomb
That
of the
one
Dragon
I did
King.
not see. I heard that even by Mummy standards, that one is a rough one to watch.
They replaced the wife isn't in it. She's
Also,
replaced by someone. I don't remember who.
there's a weird leap that occurs when you go from covering like when you go from like using ancient Egyptian mythology, which is a spiritual thing that people still practice, I know very well, but also like it feels appropriative in a different way to make the jump to Chinese mythology. So I don't know.
Interestingly, the Chinese people I know love that movie.
Oh, okay, cool. Maybe it does a good job.
It's
Totally possible.
It's not just like, oh, and they're the same thing. It's like there's a time, there's like a large time jump, and
you can't blame me for assuming they don't handle the subject matter particularly.
I mean,
well,
sure. Hey, what are you trying to say about Brendan Fraser? You don't
Nothing.
trust
Brendan
you don't
Fraser's a
trust
treasure.
Brendan Fraser?
Brendan Fraser didn't write that movie.
But yeah, no, Chinese people I know, they actually really like it.
That's good to hear.
They think it's a fun.
Maybe I will watch
It's a
it.
fun thing.
It's just they replaced the wife and it was distracting.
Yeah. And I'll briefly touch on the other thing where I got to the end of the campaign for Stormblood in Final Fantasy and 14, and I'm now at the weird shit, and that stuff rips. It's really fucking good.
It's interesting. I thought you were like already through the stories of those games, but Stormblood is like 2 expansions ago.
No, it's 1 expansion ago.
That is
It's the one before the most recent one.
yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is the penultimate one. No, I
Yes.
had to step away to play other games, and I
Gotcha.
just set the campaign aside and did random side quests throughout the year. But now I'm finally making my way back through the main story quest, and it's real fucking good, as people have been saying.
I've generally heard that the game just continues to get better. Not even that it starts bad and gets better, but that it starts good and then continues to get better over the course of the expansions.
Yeah, which is really interesting because Stormblood wraps up what seems to be like a pretty major conflict within the world, as in like, well, I don't think it's a spoiler. You know, the refugee stuff I talked about like a year ago. It kind of wraps that stuff up in a way that's really satisfying and makes sense and is good. So I'm really curious what Shadowbringers does in terms of its main story, because it must go fucking buck wild if it's moving beyond that and is also excellent. So
I know like the most basic stuff of the conceit, but
I know parts
I'm
of
not
it
going to
as well,
tell you
because they kind of allude to it near the end of Heaven's Word, kind of. But
really?
kind of. But yeah, it's good. Y'all should play Final Fantasy 14. It has a very generous free-to-play model. It's a great multiplayer.
I'd have to start over because I own the game, and if you own it, you
Unfortunately, you can't do that
play it
trial.
for free. Yeah,
Super
it's
dumb.
stupid. Like you can play
love
till
how
60
stupid
for
that is.
free, but you can't. Or no, you can just play for a month for. It's stupid.
It's very dumb. I love how stupid
If you
it is.
like,
but
if
it
you want to
sucks.
play like any of the base classes, then or base like races or whatever. It's dumb.
there is premium, quote unquote premium stuff.
Maybe that's what I'll do over spring break.
Yes,
Still
it's worth
not still not a whole lot out in the world, so maybe that's what I'll get into. Pay for like a month of that, and
Yeah, maybe you can get into some fights.
play through
Maybe
Heaven's
like
Word or something.
So like there are some fights in that game that take place in pretty small corridors. One could identify them as a space which is relatively tight. So like I don't know if that's something that you're into.
I'm more into like,
I don't like that framing at all.
I'm more into like tights in
Men in them?
Fight spaces?
fights in
Tights
Fight
and fight
spaces.
spaces, yeah.
No, that Hood game comes out. That Robin Hood game comes out in May.
Fights and tights in space.
Now we're talking.
I'd
Hell
play
yeah.
See that
that.
Japanese billionaire is like, hey, I'm gonna take 8 people to space with me,
No.
and I'm gonna pay your way.
I'm sure there won't be
Are you
any
gonna
other conditions.
Are you gonna go and
It's-
fight
it's-
in that space?
I would fight Elon Musk because
Yeah.
he's gonna be on that
Yeah,
trip too.
same, but like
I would never
fight Elon Musk in space.
I
Then
do not
he would meme at you.
I would never want to like I don't think I could ever like seriously injure someone if they were actually put in front of me. But
See,
I would
that's the thing,
definitely just love to deck Elon Musk one time.
yeah.
Just once.
Just one time. No, like not I don't even want to break a bone. I just want one good like go for the cheek so it's not gonna like not a hospital visit, you know. He can hit me back, it's fine. I'll take the swing. It's worth it.
Shoot your shot, Pat.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully he's listening. I'll go find him on Clubhouse.
Just tweet about
God.
Dogecoin and he'll get back to you.
That's true. I do own some Dogecoin.
There you
Oh
go. You have
God.
it in.
Well, speaking of being in,
Oh, I thought you were going to say, speaking of Dogecoin.
You have to
No.
fight in the Avengers video game. You have to be when you fight as Captain America in a tight space, which is also a spaceship.
Which is his ass. Because it's a tight
No.
ass.
Different Captain America.
Oh. Oh, right. This is no one
International
North.
Space Station's ass.
What is the ass of the International Space Station?
So it's funny you ask that. I recently don't ask me how I got there, but I saw that footage of the airplane engine exploding like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
Not exploding, when it was on fire. And somehow my Google searches went from there to what does it smell like on the International Space Station? There was a
Oh.
clear through line
smells
where I was
terrible.
like,
Smells like farts.
yeah, it's bad. The ass of the International Space Station is the whole thing. Because apparently it smells the thing that everyone kept saying is that it smells like a prison on the International Space Station.
Wow. So ISS
It's
more
like
like
stale
ASS.
air.
Yeah, because the air's stale. There's lots of like ammonia smell from the cleaners that they use,
Right.
but it also still is filled with dead skin particles and like farts and body odor.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Oh well, man. So fights in tight places. Remember
Spaces?
when Mike Bithell was like, "Hey, I'm making a John Wick game," and
Yeah,
everyone's like, "Hell yeah!" And then it came out, and you're like, "Oh, this isn't really
Like
John Wick.
John
it's like
Wick
turn-based
Hex.
strategy."
Yeah,
Was
John
it
Wick
called
Hex.
Hex?
Yeah,
Yeah.
John Wick Hex. And this seems it's still turn-based, but I didn't play John Wick Hex, but everything I heard was like, oh, I could skip John Wick Hex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it looked fine.
Mike
I didn't play it
Bithell
either.
is working with another developer. Let me pull. I forgot.
Oh, I didn't know he was in.
Yeah, he is involved in this.
It's Ground
Oh.
Shatter.
Cool.
Ground Shatter, isn't it?
Yeah, Ground Shatter. I don't know what else they've made. I've not played any of their games. Rico Breakout, or Skyscrapers.
No idea.
Skyscrapers, sorry. So fights in tight places is a
Spaces?
What did I play? Yeah, fights in tight spaces. God, I can't say this name. It's late. It is a deck building game where you are a John Wick-esque action secret agent person who is fighting his way through various locales with martial arts, and your you've got like a deck of cards that cycle through, and each card has a momentum, I think is the, is it momentum? Yeah, there's momentum, and then there's your combo. Momentum is like you've got 3 each turn, and you can use those. You can get extra based on certain cards, and it's like also a little bit of what's the sequel to FTL.
Into the Breach.
Into the Breach, yeah. There's a little bit of Into the Breach in here. So your main goal is to dispatch all these goons in these, in this bar or this tattoo shop, hospital, alleyway, wherever you are.
A tight space.
Yeah, various tight spaces. And you can do things like you can give them a front kick or just like a hammer fist. You can dash around. And each of these are going to have different effects. Like a front kick might knock them back like a space, so they'll like, get away from me. Or like, oh, this move is going to let me hit someone who's far away from me, stuff like that. Where the End of the Breach aspect comes in is you can see what your opponents plan to do, and you can kind of see the order they're going to attack in, and you can, if you plan things right, you can then turn your opponents against each other. You can be like, oh, I'm going to shift behind you. Like, so I'm standing between 2 people. I'm going to get behind this person, and then I'm going to push them forward. And then suddenly they're face to face, and then it's their turn now. And this guy's going to punch his friend in the face, or they're going to shoot their friend, whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, to take a step back into the meta, it's developed by those folks, but it's put out by Mode 7, who put out Frozen Synapse. And It seems like it does have a lot kind of in common with Frozen Synapse in that way, especially like seeing what the enemies are going to do and the turn-based aspect of it. So
yeah, it's like, it's all very like a sleek presentation. Looks like a lot like Super Hot. It's like stark white areas, like with some shadow, and then like black, red, white people.
Yeah, like when I saw that game on our dock, I looked it up, and it definitely has that Super Hot vibe to the aesthetic.
Yeah, and it in the same way, you're like planning out each move, and then you do it, and then things start to advance. It's a really neat conceit. After you like finish a level, then you can play things back in like not like full speed. Oh. But it's still like kind of like turn based, like, but you can just see it play out. But it's not like super fast or speedy or anything. There's still like some stiffness to it because everyone is just going back to their like idle animation while you plan out your next move.
Sure.
It's got some neat stuff where like if you push people against a wall, they'll take like an extra hit of damage, or you can, if you knock people out of the arena you're in, that just like eliminates them. So you can like push someone out a door or like over a railing, and then they're just like done, which is neat. And it's incentivizing you to build up combos and like get multiple hits in on people, and like because you've got certain moves that the higher your combo meter is, the more damage you'll do. So you've got like combo finisher, which will take all the points in your combo meter and do like 1 or 2 extra damage based on how many things you've got in your combo meter, which is cool. Or you've got like a head smash, where if you're near a wall, you can smash their head into it. They're like onto a table. It's pretty neat.
That is neat.
There's a free demo on Steam that you can play. It's early access. There's a like Fights in Tight Spaces prologue is what it's called. You can play that, and it's pretty extensive. There's like lots of events and like extra things going on in areas or like between levels. So you'd be like, and they're like typical action movie type things, like you get pulled into a car and there's 3 dudes and they have guns trained on you. What do you do? And then you can like take a chance, like, oh, I'm going to try and overpower them. And then like, oh, nope, I did not come out ahead in that fight. And now I've got like a broken arm or something. And that card will be in your hand, and it'll impact your ability to do damage or like how much momentum you have going into a fight.
Oh, cool. That's interesting.
That sounds cool.
Is that actually randomized per encounter, or is it like set in stone?
It's randomized. So
Okay.
it's a
cool.
roguelite too. And you're like, you're building a deck, and so you're getting new cards and you're upgrading the cards, kind of like a Slay the Spire type thing.
Sure. Is there any kind of narrative, or is it like, because Frozen Synapse did have a narrative, like there was stuff going on between levels that was a through line? Does this have any of that?
So it's early access. The prologue does have like a, hey, go, like you're a secret agent. It's like, hey, we've got this like this thing for you to deal with.
When you're a spy.
Exactly. When you're a spy, kick them into a wall or kick them out the door, and they won't come back in. And there was, so most of the levels I played were just like fight like against like 6 dudes and kick their ass. But there was one level where I had to protect like a diplomat or something, and you can't control him, and he just like basically stands around, but you can like mess with him with using your push ability and stuff like that, or knocking people around, and your abilities like don't hurt him. So it's like playing like, oh, I can kick him, but like I can kick him soft enough that I don't hurt him. I just like move him out of the way and stuff like that. So when there's a guy behind the bar who's just trying to shoot him, you'd be like, nope, get out of here. You're safe. You have to keep him alive for that. And there's like optional objectives like collect a briefcase or win in 2 rounds or stuff like that, which is, some of it is like, I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, where you're just like, this
literally
seems...
I don't think I can do it. There's not enough damage. There's too many dudes. But it is a pretty neat thing, and it's in early access, but it's already like super solid. So I'm curious to see like what they actually plan to do with the early access time.
Sounds super neat.
Okay, so is there any form of, is it purely single player? Because I know Frozen Synapse, there were ways to kind of play multiplayer games, kind of.
Right now it's single player.
Okay,
maybe they could add multiplayer,
but
yeah,
it's cool though.
Yeah, it's a neat thing, and I don't know what their plans are for early access, but they plan to have it out of early access within the year.
Neat.
So if you're looking for another deck builder, because Lord knows there aren't enough of those.
Well,
now, if only this happened in some form of time loop, and there were aliens, and also you were a hero.
That's the thing is, I'm fairly over the like deck building. You go through from you go on a branching thing from room to room or whatever.
Yeah.
Encounter to encounter and play cards to win the fight. That like Loop Hero is grabbing me because it's so different than other games of that genre. So I'm sure I will play Fights in Tight Spaces, but I'm kind of waiting until it's done, I think.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair.
That's what I think I'm going to do. I just put it on my Steam wish list, and it's like, I think I'll wait until early access is over. But I'm intrigued by what you've described here.
Yeah. Like it's very much like, because like when I think of like Slay the Spire or something like that, it's very much like about like, okay, I'm just playing cards, and like there's strategy to how you're playing the cards, but because you're having to think in like a 3-dimensional space, or I guess it's 2.5D, I don't know, I guess it's 3-dimensional. You're not going up and down though. You're having to think about like positioning and like multiple characters and like their impact is...
Yeah, and there's something to that. I think that's really
totally
good.
It seems different than something like Slay the Spire, but it's
still a deck builder.
Quite, like Loop Hero is sort of a deck builder, but it's not in the same way. It's much less. There's so many fewer cards, and it's so much more about like strategy of where you're placing the same cards over and over, I guess. So just totally different experience.
Yes.
So Pat, with you're not being enamored with those style of things because they've kind of been played, how do you feel about that new Ben Esposito game, the Neon White, the first person shooter card game?
So that's another one that looks very different because it's a shooter. Like it's a totally different way to interface with something like that. And I wouldn't say that I'm not enamored with deck builders. It's just I am, but I've played so many of them.
There's a surplus of them,
and it's also more being enamored with specific games that do similar things at a time. And frankly, quite right now, I'm enamored with a tabletop game that is not a deck builder, but it's like a hand builder where you're playing cards and picking up cards to make a perfect hand to score at the end. Called Red Rising
Mahjong.
Called Red Rising from the people who make Scythe Stonemaier games. So
this hand has 6 fingers.
I'm playing a lot of.
Glad that Alex and I had the exact same thought of like, oh,
building hand. This ring finger has 4 knuckles.
There's like 10. There's like 10 nails on each hand. What's that? How does that work?
No, we're not talking about baseball. I'm playing a lot of Red Rising, which has a really good solitaire mode. So that kind of kills some of my desire to play other card games.
Sure.
But I've also read that Fights in Tight Spaces is like super early right now, so I want to play it. I don't want to burn out on it before, because I'm sure I will like it quite a bit when I finally do play it.
They say they want to add another character class. I don't know how many are in the game currently, but
that's kind of the thing is I look at these games and go, oh, I don't have a ton of motivation to play it, and then once I do play it, I really like them. Is usually the arc that I go on.
They say the early access version can sustain 40 hours of play right now.
Sounds not like what I've heard from impressions from people.
This is the current state of the early access, is what it says on their page. 5-level game, easily sustain more than 40 hours of play. Maybe if you're really good at
levels in 40 hours. Oof, that sounds
like 5. I think that means like 5 like scenarios.
Just with different configurations of enemies and stuff.
Because I'm not sure if it's like 5. Like, let's see, I played like a tattoo parlor, an alleyway, a hospital, a bar, and a bathroom. But I see some stuff in the trailer, so I don't think it's like stages. I think they mean like scenarios where you're going through different sets of levels. And like dealing with different enemy sets, I think.
Gotcha.
I'm not entirely sure.
That makes sense.
But it's like the one in the prologue is like a biker gang. So you're dealing with like, you've got like guys with biker helmets, and they like have like high armor, and you've got like a guy who's got like a welding hose, a welder.
There's a ton of stuff out right now.
Yes,
from small studios. Because like I was also thinking like I want to play Art of Rally, which is not brand new, but Rob Zachney was talking about it on Waypoint Radio recently. I want to play the Circuit Superstars game, which just came out into early access, which is another top-down racing game. And like more Loop Hero, I want to play Gnosia. It's like the kind of thing where it's like, unless a game looks like I must play it now, it's hard for me to get like amped up to play it. And that's one that feels like it'll just get better with time. So I can wait.
Definitely. So yeah, that's
Ranch Simulator just showed up in Steam. I'm looking at right now.
Like ranch dressing?
No, you're
hold on, I gotta go download.
You're
Unity.
a rancher that ranches ranch dressing.
No, you're a rancher that ranches cows.
So are there monsters?
If you ranch monsters, I was gonna say if you ranch monsters, I'd be all fucking about it. But
if you could put a CD into your drive and it turns them into weird fucking monsters.
Hold on, I gotta go buy a CD drive.
I know.
That's also bad. MP3s. Sorry.
No, you would.
Oh man, if you put the MP3 of this episode of this podcast into Monster Rancher, what would it make?
Oh God.
Team Fight Manager is a simulation game where you are the coach of an esports team.
That sounds okay.
Actually, it kind of looks cool.
That sounds
okay.
Sorry.
From the derail us entirely.
I bet this podcast would be a monster with a lot of butts.
Elite Dangerous is just going to eat Star Citizen's lunch in about a month too.
Like its legs or butts.
Can Star Citizen? I guess Star Citizen can afford a whole lot of lunch.
Its arms or butts.
Not anymore, from what I've heard.
Oh,
they are rapidly
dangerous
burning.
as hungry.
Its butt is just butts.
And Mark Hamill don't come cheap.
No, evidently. Neither does running multiple 200-person studios.
Yeah.
10 of its fingernails are butts.
Alex, you should watch Mythic Quest, because in Mythic Quest, the main streamer that they're always trying to impress rates things on a scale of how many buttholes it is. So is
that a positive if it has more?
Yeah. They get 4 buttholes, and they're like, oh my god, 4 buttholes.
That's a lot
never
of
gotten 4 buttholes before.
What do they get for the shovel?
In fact, there's one of the characters says 4 buttholes, that's the dream, and everyone looks at them and it's just like, what?
That sounds pretty great.
And then he just walks away. Oh, that show's really funny. Not for if you like Always Sunny, it's really funny. It is
it's that show, right?
They get into some subjects that they handle very well, I will say, in my opinion, but they are subjects that if you think you might be made uncomfortable by, you could skip it as well.
Well, that's it for Game Talk this week. There's a whole lot of it.
And more. There's going to be a lot.
When? Where?
I mean, there's, like I said, there's so many games.
Oh yeah.
I anticipate bringing a new game every week, probably for the next at least couple months.
Okay, I'll hold you to it. In the meantime, if you've got thoughts about the newest games, or if you've got thoughts about our thoughts on the newest games, you can send an email to gaming@fix.space. If you send us an email, we'll read it on air within reason.
I'll also accept.
Yeah, within reason.
I'll accept Ted Lasso clips sent to the email.
Oh, please. Yeah.
I'll accept Mythic Quest screen grabs.
Send me more videos of people throwing glasses on the ground and farting.
If you got some sweet rugs, like that guy who made a Tom and Jerry rug with the flat Tom.
I don't think any of them listen to this podcast. So
I'm just saying, this is for the listener. If they see something good, they got to share it.
Stories like this, send stories like this. Yeah. I had a half an hour before a gaming event last night. I ran to the store, which I clocked. It takes me about 1 minute and 30 seconds to drive to. So it's I could walk to it in probably 5 minutes. And I was like, oh, it'll be fine. I got to run in. I'm going to grab a few beers and a bottle of wine for the weekend. And I go in, I grab the stuff. Of course, it's Friday night, so it's busy. I'm 6-person line, whatever. I anticipated this. It took me a half an hour to get through that line, because one person needed to have a conversation with the clerk, and then there was 2 people that knew each other that also knew the guy checking people out, and they were all talking for a minute, and then somebody else didn't know what they had a whole car full of stuff. That's what it was. And they tried to check it all out, because at this grocery store you have to buy your booze in the booze department because there's a lot of theft. And they decided they were going to check out
that's just a Minnesota
$80
thing,
in groceries, and which you're normally not supposed to do, but for some reason the guy did it. And then the guy in front of me checked out all of his stuff and then was like, is it okay if I go grab more stuff? And the guy was like, what? I guess. And then he just walked away and made all of his weight while he continued to shop for more liquor. And then also this is what made me think of it. The person behind me, who was very nice about it, but just threw a wine bottle on the ground by mistake and floated everywhere.
What kind of chaotic place did you wander into?
It was wild. It was I go to that grocery store, I go to that liquor department every week, because I don't buy booze in bulk. I buy it in small amounts. And it's never been like that before. So if you have stories like that, I wish I had farted to really sell the whole.
That would have been. Wow. That's.
Yeah.
If you got the liquor store stories, please share them.
Again, within reason.
Gaming@fix.space. We'll read them. We'll be as discreet as you wish.
Or tell us about the monsters you generated in Monster Rancher.
Yeah,
with this
please.
podcast.
I never
sounds
played
good.
Monster Rancher, so I'd love to know.
Burn this episode onto a CD, put it in your PlayStation 1, and take a screenshot with a Game Boy camera.
Oh yeah, obviously.
And then
And
take
print
the
it with a Game Boy
Blockbuster-
printer. Print it with a Game Boy printer, and then take a picture of that with your DSi camera in 3D.
Oh, well, 3DS camera.
Sorry, I meant 3DS camera, not DSi.
I was gonna say they could like fucking fax it to us. If we're going that archaic.
The fax machines are now going to like create like a visceral reaction to me forever because of Ted Lasso.
You should play Nuts. Anyways, there's a fax machine in Nuts. Anyways,
You could take a picture with a new Switch in a year, maybe.
While you're waiting, while you're considering that email you're going to write us, we'll talk about the news. And maybe by the time you figured out what you're going to write to us, Nintendo will have released a new Switch. The Switch, people saying the Switch Pro. I'm still unconvinced. This just seems like the Switch HD. Maybe. I think
they could even. I'm not saying this is my official prediction, but I think they could even call it the new Switch.
They would, but that was also like. I'm sick of that new
Switch U.
The screen is slightly bigger, right? So they could call it the Switch XL.
Yeah, they could.
Yeah.
That would make more sense. Like Switch Lite, Switch XL.
Well, yes, but the problem is if
Switch Big.
The issue with the way that they name shit,
Big
Switch Heavy. Switch Heavy.
The big Switch is my new hip hop name. The thing that I hate about their naming convention, it doesn't matter for me because we all know, but if you are purchasing a Switch for your middle school aged kid, and you are in the privileged position to be able to like access and afford all Switch models, you're going to go, oh, Switch Lite. Well, I know that they're really into games, so they probably don't want the one that says Lite, but they don't need a big one. So I'm just going to get them the normal one. So if they go with something like XL, it just is like, but it's not the actual thing.
But it is bigger. But
no, it's not that it's not bigger.
But that's not necessarily the draw.
It's got more Ks.
But nobody's going to buy it because it's bigger. They're going to buy it because it's got better performance.
I'm still not convinced it will.
Yeah,
they should call it the Switch Fortnite Roblox Among Us edition, and then that'll get all the kids.
And it's the only games it plays.
Yep.
That definitely don't need to be upscaled to 4K.
So what does this Switch Pro, quote unquote Pro, do? Andre?
So supposedly, according to this Bloomberg report, it's going to have a 720p OLED screen, which is it's got like over 200 pixels per inch density. Like it's fine. 720p is fine on a device that size.
Yes.
Yeah, people losing their crap over it not being 4K in handheld are like, what? It's like what 6 inches or something,
even 1080,
or 7 inches. I can't even remember. It's
I want them to be able to make that text microscopic and read it.
Yeah.
That's another problem with Outriders on console is that that text is small.
And that's the worst.
My neck just broke from the whiplash.
That has been enough to like get me to not play a game. Like I really like Xenoblade Chronicles X. Like I the other Xenoblade Chronicles games I've like not really got into, but I liked X a lot. But for some reason, like the text was just so small that I was just like, I can't do this game
It's
anymore.
a legitimate problem. I have a friend who can't play God of War. It would be one of his favorite games ever if he played God of War, the new series, the new one. But he can't play it because the text is too small. So it's like impossible for him to play from his couch because he has okay eyesight, but he's sitting on a couch 10 feet away from the console and it's too hard for him to read. So he was like, nope, I'm not gonna play it.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, the 720p OLED screen, which is gonna give it some real nice contrast.
Yeah, like the Vita.
Yeah, but just their Nintendo copying Sony. and supposedly it'll have a 4K output when docked. But it's not gonna. I would be shocked if this was native 4K. This is gonna be PS4 Pro, like 1440p,
super
maybe
checkerboarded,
upscaled. Yeah,
there's zero chance it's native 4K.
Yeah,
maybe with like 1 or 2 games, like maybe Picross or something. But other than that,
like there is something to be said for like doing the like 4K upscaling on the console, at least, because like some TVs, especially cheaper ones, just have dog shit upscaling, and so things look bad. So if they do it like on the console, then it'll be fine. But
also is through upscaling it, are you going to have the same performance issues that the current Switch has? Because like, I know I'm a frame rate snob, but I think if you had the option putting them side to side to pick playing Age of Calamity at 60 frames per second at 1080p versus playing it at 24 frames per second in 4K
cinematic,
everyone's gonna pick
it's the way it's meant to be seen.
Everyone's going to pick the performance option, even if they're not as much of a snob as I am.
I mean, like playing AI the Somnium Files on Switch, near the end of that game when it's switching like between multiple scenes within like the same part, there was like straight up 20-second loads that were, it seemed like the game was just frozen, and that was not the most graphically intensive game or anything like that. So like the idea of basically the same hardware trying to do anything in 4K is like, no, that's just,
it's definitely
handle that. So
it's definitely upgrade. I mean, part of this also I thought was that it is more than just it has better hardware, a better chip in it, right?
I don't think anything
presumably
I don't think
but
anything
I
has
mean,
been confirmed with that, because like the leak stuff is all just like screen stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, like that's probably what all they have, but still,
like
you can presume that if they're aiming for 4K, that they would have an improved stuff.
I
but at
would
the same
not
time,
be shocked if their only like 4K stuff was like basically just upscaling, like just a really good upscaling, and they like built that into like the dock.
But I don't know. I mean, I would be shocked if there is not a performance increase here. If there isn't,
marginal,
then hang it up. Nintendo is I will just never care about anything they do for the rest of my life, because come the fuck on. I've heard that Bowser's Fury thing runs like crap too. Like
I haven't gotten to it yet, but
it runs fine.
Yeah.
I haven't had any issues, but I mean, I also didn't finish it because I went off and did other stuff. But
yeah, I don't know that they certainly, if they want to push a 3, 4, 5-year-old Android tablet as a premier gaming device for the next decade, I don't. I mean, what are we doing?
It's probably got another like 2 full years. Then 3 years from now, we'll get like the next console, right?
I guess
it's been
4 years, because it was literally just 4 years.
It's 4 years. So I imagine within like the next 3 years, there's like a new console.
I just don't see who is it for to a new console with just a nicer screen and and 4K.
Sure.
Right.
Aside from like Sam, because Sam will buy it.
And I'll buy it. Like, let's be honest.
Why would you do this to yourself?
I don't know.
I don't know. It's
I think Nintendo. I think the Switch is a bad system overall. Like I don't like anything about it hardware wise. I think it's just trash. I don't like playing.
I don't think it's trash, but it has issues.
And I would be shocked if Nintendo like it's going to be like 1440p stuff, and like, hey, that's fine. Like, games don't need to be higher than like 1440p or whatever. They just need to have like good frame rates, and that is where the Switch is lacking most definitely. I guess so. Hopefully they do something to fix it. I'm just not convinced they actually will.
I guess I would just be surprised if they don't, because I don't think that it's I think it just has aged poorly more than anything. Like, I think on release that it was fine. Like, not that it had perfect frame rate for everything on release even, but
I mean, even Breath of the Wild was like, it was better than the Wii U version, but it still wasn't.
Yeah,
like...
but I think generally that system had a lot of promise and has in a lot of ways lived up to that promise over time. But the way that they I mean, I know they don't do this so much with their home consoles, but with the 3DS, part of the reason that it's such a monumental system is because they continually solved problems with its design through hardware revisions.
Yeah.
And so if they're just not going to do that with the Switch at all, it makes me feel like, okay, well, if you're not going to make handheld consoles anymore, and the Switch is the new way forward for Nintendo, and you're going to put a console out that is underpowered when it releases and then never do a revision on it. And I understand the Switch Lite exists, but I don't know that that's the thing we needed. It's just like, what are you doing? It seems like very poor decision making from their hardware team, if that's what they're doing. But I also I really do think that if they put this thing out, if it's real, that there's going to be some kind of at least performance. I don't think it's going to be like a PS4 to a PS4 Pro or a PS4 Pro to a PS5, but I suspect it will have at least you'll be able to like expect games to run at 30 consistently kind of thing.
That would be the dream. Consistent frame rates.
I mean, they're not those chips that who's buying the chips that go in Switches other than Nintendo at this point? That's an old chip. It's ancient at this point in terms of like mobile graphics technology.
Yeah, I think like they'll have to buy these things are going to be impossible to find.
Sure, for a year, and then they'll be everywhere. You can get a Switch wherever.
Yeah, but that's like Switch has been out for a while. Like, like the new the new Nintendo Switch extra large heavy edition is going to be difficult to find, nigh impossible.
I think I might lose it. I'm not picking on you, Allison. I really want to make that clear because I know where your head is at with this stuff. But if it turns out that it's the same chip and the only difference is it's an OLED screen and it has 4K upscaling in the dock and people are uncritically purchasing it so that it sells out, I think that might cause my break with reality. Or at least with the ability to like process Nintendo fandom.
And be the Joker once again.
Yes, I will be fully Joker-fied. Not picking on you, Allison, because we talked about the fact that that it's like kind of ridiculous that they can get away with this. But like, oh my God.
We'll see.
It's one thing if you buy it and go like, well, I'm going to buy it because I will do that with another iPhone at some point. Like, it's one thing if you buy it and realize that like you're kind of getting the runaround a bit, but like,
maybe they put a RTX 3090 in there. Who knows?
That'd be great. I think it'll have a better chip. If it has a better chip,
that'll help with that fan that is always quiet.
I never have a problem with that with my Switch.
Well, it's going to be a bigger console. It's just going to be like 6 inches thick.
Have an airfoil in it.
So that's our Nintendo news of the week. More leaks. Elden Ring had why
about this.
Yeah, Elden Ring had a trailer leak. That just looks like some Dark Souls. That trailer, there's a horse. There's
some cool wizard stuff going on
there that looks like some Dark Souls wizardry, but
like it's similar for sure.
I mean it looks like a FromSoft game. But once again, where are people getting these phones or these cameras that film things like it's a fucking like a camcorder from 1993? Like my childhood home movies look clearer than this. Like, how are people recording this? I don't understand. Like, every time footage of a game like this leaks, it's just the worst fucking footage.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it didn't look particularly good.
The footage.
I mean, not
the game looks cool.
the footage. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Just like fucking 480p. Like, what are you doing?
What surprises me is that this trailer exists and it has apparently existed for a while. And like they're just sitting on the marketing for this game, which is interesting to me.
Yeah, supposedly they had to like COVID and they're having like late and stuff issues. I don't.
Danny O'Dwyer talked about a little bit on I think it was on the Bombcast, is that in his talks with developers, it seems like this is anything that was in like early development and there were still like ideas, like ideation happening around games where they were envisioning new concepts and features. Those games are going to have the heaviest hit from COVID because that's the hardest thing to do remotely, because a lot of the time those games are developed, features are developed by people sitting together and having lunch and going like, what about this? What about this? And just kind of having informal conversations, which you just don't do working remotely. So something like this game, which I'm sure has a long development cycle with lots of iteration on mechanical ideas, probably hit a really heavy delay.
And George R.R. Martin, famously known for being prompt.
Yeah, I don't think that has as much to do with it as people might suggest.
So, and there was it was given a provisional rating, I believe is what it was. So it was like, and most games get that. Like, I think the longest time I saw between like a game getting that and releasing was like 200 days, and that was like Witcher 3, I think, or something. So I like, it could be this year.
I think that's a pipe dream, but
based on like this thing, like it's a provisional rating and stuff, like so that sounds like it's content complete or very near content complete, like to get a provisional rating like that. So
yeah, I would expect that we'll hear about more of it at E3, and that it'll probably get a date for holiday and then get pushed to spring next year is kind of my guess.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. Just give me the game. I just
want to know. I mean, obviously I have 3 more FromSoft developed Souls games to play. So it's not even that I'm like chomping at the bit to have it right now. It's more, I just would like to know for sure that it's going to come out and not end up canceled.
That would be really something. The Microsoft marketed FromSoft game gets canceled. That would be really.
It would be better if it gets canceled than it's a Cyberpunk for sure. But
no, for sure. I'd be surprised if that was the case. But
yeah.
Okay. Just if you're gonna leak game footage, use a better camera. Like, what are you doing? Buy an iPhone if you're gonna do this, I guess. Like, it's easy camera. I don't know. All right. Next story. We talked about this last year with the Sinking City, developed by Frogwares, had a whole spat with their publisher. The game was delisted from a bunch of stores. Frogwares was like, "Don't buy the game. We're not getting our payments like from our publisher." And then the game went back up on Steam. And it sounds like the publisher like kind of stole stuff.
They pirated the game.
They pirated the game and put it up on Steam.
Excuse me.
And then Frogwares DMCA'd the game to get it off Steam. Like, because the publisher won't pay them, basically.
Yeah, they've had a lot of issues with their publisher with their Sherlock Holmes games, and it's a mess. Try to make sure when you buy it, if you buy it, that you're getting it from a source that will benefit the developer.
Is there any source that they say to buy it from?
I thought they did a PlayStation 5 release of it. Okay. One of my friends was messaging me saying they got the PS5 version and they really like it, and they didn't like it when they played it on PS4. But I don't know what that looks like.
I recall there being something about maybe the console versions were chill, or like
yeah, they like
some
won
because they
some
weren't
thing.
published. Just different published. I don't know.
I thought it was that they won some rights, like won a suit in the UK, so or not UK, in Europe somewhere.
Yeah,
so
maybe.
They won back publishing rights for the
yeah, it is a very
complex web,
ridiculous situation. All the best, Frogwares. Hopefully that works out for them.
Yeah, it's a bummer. You can get it on PS5 right now, and it looks like it has no mention of their publisher anywhere. Just Frogwares. Yeah, Frogwares is listed, in fact, as the publisher on the PlayStation Store page, and that game was really good. The ending is a little disappointing, but I recommend it if you're going to.
The ending is disappointing. The rest of it is good. It's fine. Speaking of ridiculous things, Shovel Knight and Arby's. I missed this.
Oh, they did a Shovel Knight thing at Arby's.
Shovel Knight has got the meats. So it's like a toy and a kid's meal.
It is very much a kid's meal. Yeah.
Okay.
It was a weird. The way they tweeted about it was like, if you go to Arby's, you can get a Shovel Knight DLC code in your kids meal. Collect all 6 to get the full DLC. And people were like, "Does this mean that I can get the game if I go to Arby's?" And they were like, "No, that is not what this means." But yeah, it's funny.
Next, E3 2021 physical event canceled, which no surprise.
Well, the surprise was that, well, I guess maybe it isn't a surprise. It's that the city of LA shut it down.
Well, I think it's more of a formality. It's like they had to say, "Hey, we're reserving the space in the event that we can use it," and then the city went, "This is not happening." So yeah, like of course, I believe they still have online plans for this year, but we'll see if anyone actually takes them up on it, because it sounds iffy. When you got Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest and Jeff Grubb's Summer Game Mess, like, coming up, I think I know which one I'd choose if I were a publisher.
I hope the Noclip thing happens that Danny O'Dwyer was talking about, where if they were to hit a certain stretch goal, that they're going to do a whole bunch of E3E kind of stuff.
They're going to do coverage, right? It's they're going to do like a week of coverage. Like, it was like a
week of coverage, but like they also, it was phrased in a way that's like, we might do some kind of E3 event. And I was like, oh man, imagine if Danny was just hosting like Jeff Keighley style. Danny would be a great host for that.
I mean, that's what he did at GameSpot. He makes every developer Noclip through their demo, show off the map.
Noclip stuff is really good right now. It's really cool.
Yeah. Congrats to Danny on his very successful revamp of his Patreon.
Yep. Well deserved.
Noclip's awesome.
We do have that in our news. We could just quickly hit it. It's like they're starting a new series about classic games, which sounds kind of awesome.
Yeah. Greatest hits.
Roller Coaster Tycoon.
That'll be fun.
That's a great first one.
Yeah, it was patrons that decided on. It was cool. He did 2 stages where if you were at the $20 tier, you could name a game basically. So he didn't even seed the list himself. He had patrons put up the games they wanted, and then from there kind of collated the results of that, so that crunched together the people who said the same thing into a list of games, and then put it up as a wider vote for more patrons to vote on. So totally chosen by patrons, and Roller Coaster Tycoon is a really good one to start with, and not one I would have thought of. So
totally.
So it's really cool to see that their rebranding of Noclip is being really successful for them. They've gotten a ton of new subscribers and stuff like that, so hopefully that continues. Next up on our news, Germany passed a youth protection law, which makes it so games with loot box mechanics cannot be sold to the youth. this has kind of been an ongoing saga in the EU, like Denmark and other countries have been like, yo, what's up with this FIFA? It's kind of fucked, huh?
Yeah. Like, so they changed it, or not changed it. They made new legislation that's saying any game that has any kind of loot box mechanics, and then like they gave examples of like FIFA and other stuff, how it would either have to go for an 18 plus rating, or they would have to remove the loot box mechanics. And if it has loot box mechanics, it cannot be rated any lower than 18. And retailers are being encouraged to not sell to anyone under 18 if it has that. Like, so yeah. It's like becoming part of law.
Yeah. I wonder how that'll like pan out like long term, and like when that like takes effect, and what kind of fallout the US will see from that. Because those like FIFA Ultimate Team, like the NFL stuff, my team or whatever it is, that stuff makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like the main source of income for those games at this point.
Yeah, like almost for those companies.
Oh yeah, totally true.
So yeah, that'll be like, was it 2K just like their whole thing for like the NBA game one year was just like, it's a slot machine, basically. Wasn't that a thing? I don't remember. Maybe that was more recent.
So I can't remember, but I think so.
It was just like basically a casino for the whatever their NBA thing was, I think. But yeah, that I was like, is that going to impact like gacha games? What's it called? The
Genshin.
The Genshin, is that going to have like 18 plus now? Like
I guess
mobile games,
in Germany,
like
at least.
Yeah.
So lots of One Piece Bounty Rush is going to be 18 plus.
It's an interesting question, because it's like, in some ways it's kind of like, I don't know, when do we know when this comes into effect? Is it like immediate, or
I didn't see?
You would kind of, I mean, something like Genshin, they'll be fine. They have players all over the world, and maybe this will force them to think about this. Like, I don't feel bad for loot boxes. Have a predatory aspect, and I don't think it's bad to shield kids from accessing them. But at the same time, I can see how if you've built your whole business model around loot boxes kind of as a product of the culture and business environment that your game is developed in specific case of something like Genshin, where that's just how most games are, as my understanding anyway, most games are made in China. It's kind of like, it would be good to give someone the ability to try to figure out how to restructure their payment models to revenue models to like get around it and figure out the right way to do it. So I don't know. It's an interesting problem.
Belgium and the Netherlands already have it regulated, so Germany is just next up.
Hopefully these developers see it as like dominoes falling, and like, maybe we should change the way we do this overall and start to shift away from that gotcha model. Like,
because Germany is like, they're a big economy, they're very influential, and then with like Denmark and the Netherlands and stuff like that, so if you have the whole EU slowly turning against you, it's like, you can't just cut off that whole like part of the, does it become worth it to have like, here's the whole separate EU version, and then just the North America, especially with like FIFA, like I imagine the EU is where most of that money comes from.
Yeah.
For Ultimate Team, at least, the NFL stuff. Yeah. South America in general, but yeah, I don't know. Interesting to see. Story evolving.
Yeah.
We'll keep you up to date. Next.
Not a negative thing.
That is true. You know what is negative? The life signs from Valve's Artifact. It's dead.
Yeah, I don't know. a few people tagged me as like oh, what did you see that? And it was kind of like, well, it's been dead for months. They haven't said anything about that update in months. So
they did. They did an Anthem, and they're just like, we tried to revamp it, and it's not worth it.
Yeah, it seemed
they probably saw the Anthem news. They probably saw the Anthem news and like, oh yeah, Artifact.
Well, it's how they needed to push it long enough that they didn't have to give anybody a refund, essentially.
Yeah, and now it's 100% free to play, as in like all cards are free and everything. So
I don't think I can get a refund for what I put into it, but
no updates, nothing.
Yeah, no updates are coming ever. So. Rip again.
And our last news story of the week is quite a doozy. Hold on to your butts.
Oh, geez, right.
So the new Story of Seasons game is out in Japan. It's coming out it's coming out in America soon. Is that?
It's like at the end of the month, I think.
Okay. Later this month. Story of Seasons, Pioneers of Olive Town or something?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I looked it up after this news because I was like, I'm intrigued.
I bought it for my girlfriend. She's enjoying it. But there is a strange, unsettling mechanic where in this new Story of Seasons game, you can get married. They
which
don't
is
call
normal.
it marriage, but you can get, you can have a friendship ceremony, and you can have kids. They just like pop out of holes in the ground.
They're just like brought to you or something. Yeah.
Stork, I don't know. But something they've added to this game is divorce. Like, okay, that's a kind of a forward-looking way to think about things game. It's like acknowledging divorce, and like, I don't love this virtual man anymore. I don't love this virtual woman anymore. I want them out of my life. Yeah. A strange side effect of this is if you have children and you get divorced, those children cease to exist in the game. They're just gone.
Yeah, that's how it works, obviously.
So the phrase in the article is like, the way that like this popped up was, if you get divorced, that means you have to kill your kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's so
just like essentially
Thanos snap.
Yeah.
I
feel like that's gonna get patched.
It's like, well, it's a bizarre thing because like, where do they live? Do they live with you? Because you can get remarried, then you've got like how many kids? You have mixed family.
I bet it won't get patched. I bet this is just like
custody. This is the game working as intended.
As we go out too, I scrolled down the page and it's got, of course, all the trash junk articles that always come up on website. I have one here that says, seriously, olive oil? Turn ice cream into gourmet gelato with this easy butt fattening trick, which is I'm not clicking that.
Butt fattening?
No, BUT, not BUTT.
I know. I think
it's an odd way to sell one of these clickbait articles, because sometimes there's a clickbait article that I'm like, I'm not clicking this, but I am curious what this is about. This was just bad. I don't want to make the ice cream more fattening. If I wanted gourmet gelato, I'd just buy it. I'm incensed.
Absolutely livid.
Yeah,
I'm absolutely lipid.
There you go.
Got him. If you're absolutely incensed as well, just lipid at this news, then you can send an email to gaming@fyx.space. Send us your gourmet gelato recipes.
But don't sell it as turning ice cream. Ice cream's already good. Don't act like, oh, the best thing for ice cream is you just add some olive oil and fatten it up. Like,
just go back and listen to our episode called Gelato Artists.
Gelato Artists, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm looking up episode 29.
Oh, wow. That's a classic.
Gosh.
And also episode 34, where we had Gelato Artist Part 2.
Huh.
Facts.
no idea what we talked about on those episodes. But we can just start a retrospective right now.
That's just Gaming Fyx now, is that we just listen to old episodes and go, huh?
Oh yeah.
It's the Gaming Fyx re-listen.
Danny basically teased doing something like that for the Patreon, where he like will go back and watch old video reviews from like GameSpot and stuff and talk over them, which I think would be very funny.
Well, that is gonna do it for this episode of the Gaming Fyx podcast 162 on March 6th, 2021. I have been your host, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite Muppet. You can find me on Twitter at Coolslaw, COOLSL4W. Pat, where can people find you?
You can find me at PJC Plays.
Allison?
You can find me on Twitter at WRITERSERENY2I.
And Alex?
Next week will be a Coding Fyx, so on there.
Woo.
Is this the blockchain?
Yeah, it was going to be a data structures episode, but I think given recent conversations, it's going to be a blockchain episode.
I know how much you love NFTs.
God. It's purely going to be a technological episode. There's going to be no politics.
I don't care about the blockchain. Blockchain this, blockchain that. I don't care about that. It's all the other stuff around it that people try to justify with the blockchain.
You just want to know.
Get out of here.
You just want to know when you buy the next Kings of Leon album that you're one of the only people who got it.
I want to know when I buy the next Kings of Leon tweet that I'm the only one who owns it.
Do they understand that I could just like play? I mean, I could just play the album and record it using capture software and then put it out, and it wouldn't be attached to the NFT anymore. Like,
wait, is Kings of Leon doing a?
Yes, they're doing an NFT album.
What the fuck? God, son of a.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So they clearly don't understand how computers work. And someone was like, "You hear about NFTs?" And they're like, "Tell me more."
I mean, like, at least the Wu-Tang had the good sense to put it on vinyl.
I don't necessarily even, I didn't click the story and I don't intend to. I don't even necessarily know if it's going to be limited. It's just that you buy it as an NFT. But like,
we can't.
I would just rip it. Honestly, like, fuck you.
Yep.
Not an NFT anymore, baby.
It's so dumb.
It is your moral responsibility to pirate that album.
For everyone to do so. That's not Andre saying that to me. That's Andre saying that to all of you listening.
Like,
but also don't say we told you to pirate it if you get sued.
And also, don't record any footage of Pokemon Unite.
That was satire.
Don't post any footage of Pokemon Unite. You can record whatever you want.
It's funny when you do.
The government can't stop you.
When you capture screenshots, it overlays that, hey, don't share this screenshot text all over it, which I've shared with our group chat. But, anyways.
Absolutely shocked to learn how the Android camera worked in a lot of fucking apps today.
I still gotta watch that section.
Fucking like Instagram or like Snapchat. If you have an Android phone, they don't jack into the camera and take the camera feed. They take a screenshot of the camera feed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so
like
funny.
It was news. Apparently, the new Samsung phones, like Snapchat, actually uses their camera.
Yeah.
And so that was news. Just like. So that's why Android screenshots, like if you take a picture in Instagram, like on an Android or in Snapchat or whatever, it doesn't look great. Like it looks better if you take a picture with your phone camera and then put it into the app. How have we gone on for like over a decade like this? Like, what the fuck?
Thanks, Google.
It's a good question.
Add two-factor authentication to all of your apps.
So, yeah. And add Gaming Fyx, add at Fyx Podcast to your follows on Twitter, and follow at Gaming Fyx on Twitch to find out when we go live. And thanks to Jeff Davis at Stranger Piece for our music for the show. And yeah, I don't know. Sometimes there'll be a comic fix that goes up it's behind like a few weeks now, it seems like.
Yeah, we're taking a bit of a break to build up a backlog, and then not a bunch of episodes will go but once, but we'll have a back to the normal release cadence.
Would you call it a backlog log?
Yeah, sure.
I've been trying to think of a joke about that. So it's like the Arrested Development Bob Loblaw's Bob Loblog, but like Jack backlog blog. I don't know.
Well, if you want to hear more about backlog logs, go listen to Super GG Radio.
Jack Black's something. Jack Black's backlog blog. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Stay wet,
goodbye.
Andre.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Stay wet, gamers.